by Veronica Kloiber. And we are moving on in the agenda. We have no motions arising from the closed session. We have 5.1 minutes of regular meeting for November 15th, 2023. Can I get a motion to adopt those? I have Deputy Mayor Kelly. Any errors, omissions, concerns? Looking good. Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. 5.2 minutes of special meeting of council held November 29th, 2023. That was our budget meeting. Can I get a motion to adopt those minutes, please? Councillor Gordon gives me that. Sorry, Heather, you're going to get there. I'll look left first one of these days. Any concerns, errors, omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you, and that is carried. All right. Question period 6.1. Question period is a 15-minute section of council where we allow the public to ask questions of council or administration for points of clarity, concerns, general inquiry. We have quite a few questions this evening, so I'm going to jump right into it. I would love to ask the people, if you have a quick question, get it up there and answered. If you have a long question, try and keep it to 5 minutes as best you can. I have Dolores Zeller. Number 1, increase in water rates. Has the town petitioned the province as for the reasons for the increase resulted, or has the increase resulted from the 2013 floods? I'm not quite sure if that's pertaining to, is Dolores here? I thought she was, yeah, Dolores, are you referring to the increase that we're talking about now? Okay. No, would be the simple answer. It has nothing to do with the 2013 floods at all.
But
Yes.
that being the case, would the province kick in some money? That's what I'm asking.
Oh, we're always searching for grants. We're never ending, always looking for grants for water. That's 100%. In relation to pressure on the pipes is, if we fix 3 holes, yeah, so that has nothing to do with the 2013 flood. It has more to do with the infrastructure itself. We spent approximately, I'd say 36 million in DRP, so disaster relief spending on flood mitigation. So that money can be used on the flood zone, not on infrastructure further uphill or somewhere else in town, if that makes sense. But we're always looking for money for grants to fix infrastructure. So that's 100%. Has council been aware of the cost to repair Black Diamond infrastructure prior to amalgamation? It has always been a question mark around what condition and level the assets were at. But that goes for Black Diamond Council in terms of Turner Valley's assets as well. So asset management is at best a shot in the dark for some. On Turner Valley side, for example, we have a MPE document about yay thick that shows all of our water lines and the years. For Black Diamond, they had one by Urban Systems, I think was similar, not quite the same with the coloring. So we had a guesswork of what it was like. That's the best I can give you. So until we do a further analysis of the actual infrastructure with cameras, we'll just have to keep on fixing the lines as we find them and start documenting what we can. So yes, the answer is, was council aware? As best we could, for sure. Good. Follow up?
We told partly the truth, but not the whole truth before we amalgamated.
Sure. Okay.
I think we get sold the belly goods here.
Well, this is not a debate on amalgamation, unfortunately. And I totally get where you come from. We've heard that time and time again. So totally valid, right? But was council aware? Yes, we were both aware. Both sides were aware that one town has issues, another town has issues. Are we better together? My belief is still yes. So, okay, I'll move on. Thank you for your question. We have Glenn Fagan. Please be advised I'll be attending and addressing council. Can you please tell me when the agenda will be issued for this meeting? Is that what you,
No. That
No.
was an additional question because the agenda didn't get issued on Friday, it got issued on
okay,
Saturday, and I was just looking for,
would you like to,
but I'd like to address.
sure, go ahead.
Like that? Okay.
Yeah. Jackie, I know.
No, that's for clarification, not first.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Clarification first.
So,
Clarification on the-
Oh,
sorry.
Clarification on the agenda, sure. What time is
Friday
the,
night.
It was published Friday night. It was
Friday night?
7:30 or so. It's late.
oh, I was,
and this was sent November 27th at 1:33 PM. So was that Friday? I don't know.
so I only looked at around 4:30, so that's why I sent fire at the end of the day for me, so.
All right, sounds good.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, council, administration, Diamond Valley citizens. My name is Glenn Fagan, I'm a taxpayer in the town of Diamond Valley. I live at 259 Willow Ridge Manor, Southwest. I'm here to offer some discussion on the Willow Ridge Trail access points in the report that was issued to council for this evening's review. Request of administration by council at a council meeting was of November 20th, 2023, and that's the last meeting, and that date is going to be important a little further on. Details in this report were generated by Mr. Craig Beaton, the operations manager. The recommendations from Mr. Beaton is to spend approximately $60,000 to revamp the two trail access points for the convenience and accommodation of tools, equipment, staffing, with a suggestion would be safer for all participants in the community. No fiscal cost recovery, just additional costs. No substantial improvement to safety. No improvement in citizen to operations relationships. None of the solutions recommended included restoring the railing or removing the restrictive seasonal closures or barricades. Nothing in the report referenced community concerns. Nothing in this report regarding community input. Letter with 108 signatures, public inquiries by phone, email, in-council presentations, and in person with the operations manager, some councilors, and a council meeting. Nothing in the report details the original operational efficiency decision made by that operations manager. The operational efficiency would suggest operations improvements, which was validated, with the reduction in cost benefit back to the community along with improved community relations. We lost on those last two elements. Nothing in this report details the timing of council's awareness of the issues that have been brought forward by the community. One member of council did respond to an email that I sent and was aware of the issue on September 2nd, 2023, and did make an inquiry on it. A second councilor at a public meeting responded to his awareness, and that was after the first, and suggested a wait and see approach to answering the questions. All of council would have been aware as of September 11th, upon receipt of a letter detailing the concerns from a previous town councilor, Mr. John Waring. It is now December 6th, 2023. 3 months of awareness, and only one thing has been done by this council, and it was a request for more info. In addition, it's been suggested council may decide to defer a decision by moving the report to a committee for additional study. That's just another delay in getting an answer we all want. Council, your committee has spoken. They are right here in this room. It includes council, it includes the CAO, it includes administration, and it includes the operation manager. Most importantly, it also includes your concerned citizens, all who have spoken to the concerns. Council, the operations manager has dug you a very deep hole. This is the only way out of this hole, and it's time for you to stop digging. I asked, I have several of them, I'll provide them to Verna.
It's question
Yeah,
period.
question. I'm providing a question.
It's just to be clear.
Yeah, these are
Okay,
asked.
so we understand the background.
Yeah.
Gave it up last meeting. You are 2 minutes left in your 5
Yeah,
minutes.
and my question will be done with that. Your worship, do I get that minute back for conversation?
You get your 30 seconds, okay?
Because my question will only take 30 seconds.
Please ask your question.
We're asking that you do not move this to another committee for further study. Immediately restore the railings as previously requested at the last meeting. Remove the seasonal closure barricades. Immediately restore the sand and salt boxes at those two locations that were there. And council, as of tonight, I'm asking that you make a motion to record your votes by name on any actions related to these trail issues. Thank you for your time.
Your question was, will we record our votes?
There are five questions. Five
So
questions.
those were 5 demands with 1 question, but that's okay.
Will you on all of them?
Immediately restore the railing.
Will you
Do not
restore the railing?
So thank you for your questions. And yes, we can record votes, no problem. Excellent, thank you. Jackie Stickle, you requested to ask questions as well. Please step up. Thank you very much.
I'm Jackie Stickle. I live in Diamond Valley, 302 Center Avenue, northwest. At the November 27th, 23 water utility open house, there was a question asked that wasn't really answered there. It related to the inequality of water utility rates in 2023 between the communities of Turner Valley and Black Diamond. A copy of each community's 2023 utility bill was for basic usage was provided. These bills showed a difference of $27.11 for a basic water bill or $162.66 for the year. I know that during amalgamation negotiations, there was acknowledgements that some bylaws were more important to be updated than others. One being the equality of water utilities. I believe that an oversight by previous councils, JFAC, administration, and this council has led to the 2023 inequality. It is not so much the $27.11 per billing period or the $162.66 per annum. It is the total of all the 2023 Turner Valley community utility bills. If there are 1,000 meters in the Turner Valley community, the basic water, wastewater contribution is likely over $162,000. I believe these funds would be very useful to the town of Diamond Valley in its goal to total cost recovery. My question is this council prepared to review this oversight of approximately $162,000 before the end of 2023 in the hope of bringing water, wastewater, and stormwater rates of the two communities into alignment as of the amalgamation date of January 1st, 2020.
Thank you. That is a very good question. My short answer on that one would be no. But I would look to council if anybody wants to comment, but I'll lay my answer and my reasons first. Our document that we received from Municipal Affairs, allowed the two towns to operate as single entities, as their bylaws have always been, while the amalgamation was being blended. So, for example, tonight you're going to see on the agenda a merger of the utility rates under 9.2. You have two bylaws still today, almost a year in, to amend the utility rates. The reason why is because these are legal documents that take time and effort and lawyers to actually blend. It was always known through amalgamation, through the JFAC meetings, that we would never be able to do everything, cut one knife, the date has changed, we're automatically Diamond Valley, and we're automatically all in one, and every bylaw is the same. So Turner Valley had a bylaw for its water usage. Black Diamond had one for theirs. Both believed they were at cost recovery, from my understanding, which is not the truth. So we're dealing with the truth now. So the truth is, we thought we were doing what was right for the community. Black Diamond thought they were doing what was right for the community. So today, we now have a new system and a new belief, and that's what we're making decisions on. So we're not looking with eyes on the past. We're looking for eyes to the future. Legally, we have always been allowed to work both bylaws up to this point. Now, we are at the point where we want to align them, and that's where we're gonna go. I'll hand it off, but that's my answer why I would say no. I would move forward, not backwards.
Yeah, we're trying to end the whole this side, that side. Did we spend more last year in the capital budget on the historical Black Diamond side than we did Turner Valley? Are we going to this year spend more on one side than the other? And should the other side be compensated? We have to end that argument somewhere. It is unfortunate we never got to it. We weren't terribly, I wasn't terribly worried about it, because we knew Black Diamond was paying more for water because they historically had more leaks. And which we thought we would continue into this year, but they were able to find a bunch and bring those leaks down quite faster than we thought. So should we just say that yours went to paving the arena parking lot, in the curling rink parking lot? We have to end it somewhere. So I don't think I wouldn't want to go back on it. So I think we need to move forward, and yeah, I'm not going to be adding it up, but you can when we do capital budget, which side are we spending more money on? And you can keep doing that for lots of years, but we have to end sometime.
Thank you, Councillor Clover.
I'm gonna be the dissenting voice this evening. This has bugged me since, well, when we set the mill rate this year, it was a gentleman's or gentleperson's agreement that there would be someone, Black Diamond's gonna take the hit for the mill rate, so Turner Valley was going to have to meet halfway for the water and utilities, and that has not happened till just now. So yeah, this has been bugging me for the better part of a year. I realize we have to move forward, we're one, all that unity stuff, but I do not disagree with this question or the suggestion that there was a fiscal oversight.
Okay, thank you. Sure, go ahead, Jonathan, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, if I can ask former Councillor Stickle, with the calculations that you've done there, did you also include the offset and the difference for Turner Valley charging the $10.50 per billing cycle for the stormwater last year, and how Black Diamond wasn't having that last year? Have you found that balance?
Just took a total straight difference, knowing full well that some bills would be higher, some bills would be lower. So I just used the basic example from a normal person that didn't have overage or underage. I didn't have any business stuff. I just totally took what you gave me. And I do not disagree with the Turner Valley versus Black Diamond. What I'm disagreeing with is in this particular case, you want everything to be total cost recovery. It was a simple thing to have done in January or February to make the rates identical. Just for the year, you didn't have to do anything else. So I just took a total difference. If there's 1,000 water meters, it's just that much money. Pick a number in between. I think $162,000 is a lot of money that Diamond Valley needs from somewhere.
Thank you, Ms. Stickle. Okay. Good. All right. I'm going to move on. We have Linda Leslie. As per our phone call, I would like to add the following question to the meeting agenda. Pedestrian safety concern, no street lights on Southwind. We and other residents walk our dogs at night in Bailey Ridge. As there are no sidewalks, we have no option but to walk on the street. Over the past 3 weeks, we have had 2 close calls with cars turning onto Southwind.
Sorry.
So, yeah, I was like, Southwind, okay, Southwind, from 16th Ave. Although we have been using flashlight, it's pitch black, and the vehicles did not see the light we are shining in front of us. I am requesting a minimum 1 light be installed on the south end of Southwood and 16th, and possibly another further down Southwood, as there are currently no street lights at all along this street for pedestrian safety. Thank you for your time. I will be attending tonight's meeting to voice my concerns. That one, I can't disagree. 16th Ave is absolutely dangerous, and I shake my head when I see people out there with baby strollers. But like wearing black, like it's totally insane.
Yeah, if I can say, like, there's no, and Craig is really good. Craig called me back.
Yeah.
And he said there will be a committee at some point because there are some efficiencies in lighting and paths around both communities. But this one here, like, it's just like two close calls like that. And again, there's no walking paths there at all for us to use. So coming around 16th is bad enough, but at least it's straight and a car could see you and I do carry a flashlight. But we're coming around that corner and a car's coming around behind us. It's, it was pretty scary. So my question is it possible to get even a solar light installed, not
Yeah,
on Southwood?
I think we can definitely have that looked into this week. We can do that. And we have capital budget coming up, so that would be the time that we could add that to discussion.
I make motion on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over here to him.
Through the CAO, to, Craig, can we, approach Fortis? Because my understanding, and I may be wrong, if we approach Fortis, there are providers and perhaps they could put up some streetlights up there. So is that one of our options?
Yes, through the mayor, Councillor Thompson. We just need to make a formal request to Fortis and there's, they would charge us the install rate, but, and then of course the ongoing maintenance. Absolutely.
Mayor Craig, could I just suggest, I don't think there's a requirement for a formal resolution to council. We will be discussing the capital budget here and we can bring you some cost estimates back for that as part of that process. Council can weigh that with all, the other priorities and come to a decision.
Excellent, thank you. All right. Thank you for that. Gail Fagan, you have some questions you'll be addressing council as well.
I do, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, my name is Gail Fagan, I live with him, Mr. Fagan, Wilbur. I'm here because this whole railing thing, I've been quite concerned, I know you've heard about it. And I'm concerned it's getting buried into much bigger issues like the water and stuff like that. I just want to state to you here that this kicking the can down the road in September and not dealing with this, I want to remind council, there was never any problem, zero problems with our pathways in Willow Ridge prior to the day that Mr. Beaton summarily and unannounced took the railings out. Okay, I'm getting to it. I have 5 minutes, please. Okay.
Yeah, if you could please state your question and not.
No, I'm putting some background. Can you please stop being so aggressive? I would appreciate a few minutes of time. I don't come here very often.
No, you don't.
And I pay your taxes.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
And I pay my taxes as well, but
You're
this
being
is
aggressive
question
there.
period.
I am. I will get.
It's question period.
Give me 3 minutes.
Go ahead.
Thanks. You pushed it down the road and apparently took a boat around to wait and see. I want you to know that March 14th, this year, the trails in the town, sidewalks, whatnot, there was 12 to 14 people admissions to the Oilfields Hospital from slipping on ice. A person that I know broke her wrist and went in there and had to wait 12 hours for surgery. This is no joke. The pathways were perfectly fine before Mr. Beaton came along. Okay. The unintended consequences that you may not be aware of are also civil disobedience. People have removed signs, they cut down the chains, they're ignoring the closure orders by both adults and youth. I spoke to a young kid walking by and I asked how was it closed? And he said, well, somebody's taking him down. He was just stupid anyway. That was from a 14-year-old boy, according to these closures. Okay, all this has politics operate in personal agendas. Leadership operates from personal integrity. Okay, leaders know instinctively when there's been a mistake made. Like maybe the day that happened and you didn't know about it, you went, oh gosh, why did he do that? That's integrity. That's your integrity speaking. Leaders publicly step up and take responsibility for mistakes. Leaders are able to sincerely acknowledge the harm that's been done to the community and take immediate action to remediate and repair, rather than kick this down the road further because there's more important things to do. We paid for these things. One day before, there was nothing wrong with them. My questions to council are this. Will at least 4 of you make the right decision, show your leadership rather than your politics, and vote just to get that railing replaced as it was. That's all we're asking for. And the second question is vote to reject that recommendations and $60,000 worth of further damage to existing wildlife. We saw an arbor tech truck there, landscaping, fencing, etc. Just put this stuff back, and that's all it's going to take. It's going to take those three steps, and just 4 of you. Please I'm asking you for some personal and political or leadership here because we need it. I can't use those trails anymore. The kids are using them for school. People use them to get downtown that can't afford gas. And this town cannot afford $60,000. We've got GoFundMe's for people that can't afford to eat right now. Okay, $60,000 is a lot of money. It'll take less than 20 to put the railing back, and it's the correct decision and the right decision. Thank you for your time.
Anybody respond to that question? Helen?
Thank you, for your concerns, and we've all been listening. I would like to say something though. Mr. Beaton is here tonight to present his report, and I would like to give him the opportunity to do that. And maybe we made a mistake and maybe we didn't. And I don't appreciate basically being bullied. So that's all I'd like to say. I want to give Mr. Beaton a chance to respond.
Thank you. Can I reply?
No, we're good. We don't need to have any more conflict. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You'll have heard the debate tonight and you might be pleasantly surprised. So let us just get through the question period. And when we get to the debating of that topic, I think you'll actually be enjoying it. All right, who do we have next? We have Jackie Cassidy. No, hold on. Yes, Jackie Cassidy. Here we go. That's good. She sent it in. I have 2 questions for December 6th meeting, and I am still waiting for a response to my question asked at the November 15th council meeting. I'm in continued contact with Diamond Valley residents who signed the petition provided to council on November 15th. FYI, they are aware of it not meeting the MGA petition requirements. These questions come from our discussions resulting from Facebook conversations between residents and council members. Council Gordon, Deputy Mayor Kelly, most notably. Number 1, council, can you explain in detail how the removal of the pathway handrail and the sand/salt boxes has made the subject pathways as noted on the submitted petition on council November 15th, safer? Number 2, how many accidents or incidences have been reported to BD and now Diamond Valley for previous 10 years plus current year that are directly due to the use of the handrail and or the use of sand and salt boxes? And as that item is on the agenda, we will be addressing those concerns at that time. We cannot speak to those in question period because they're on the agenda. Much like your concern, same applies. All right, so when we get to that portion, we will answer those questions. That one's done. We have 1 more left, I believe. And we have pathway recommendations, Audrey Servan. QV, Audrey?
Okay. I think I'll turn this, I've got a bit of a froggy throat. Can I turn the microphone?
Absolutely, yes, please.
And before I start, I don't want this included in my 5 minutes. I would request that you give me the respect to tell you what my concerns are as I give all of you respect. Mr. Mayor and councillors, I'm Audrey Zakrenitz from 315 Willow Ridge Mountain. Further to my letter to you of November the 9th, I wish to address the situation regarding 2 paths connecting Willow Ridge and Riverwood, and specifically the recommendation put forth in agenda item 11. This is a major problem that should never have happened. Is it the policy of this council to condone the destruction of the infrastructure in the former town of Black Diamond? The safety handrail by Diane Cray Park should not have been removed, and the seasonal closure of the east path should not have been agreed to. The unnecessary destruction and damage to path infrastructure is appalling,
and for town employees to attach chains to residents' private fences without their permission is surely trespass. The recommendation to remove rocks and fences down the Northeast Trail and install concrete curbs to accommodate snow clearing equipment is unacceptable and, quite frankly, nonsense, given the adjustable width blades that are available. This path is heavily used by children as a shortcut to and from school, and not just by walkers. And it is important to point out that removing the fence is dangerous. It was put up by the former town of Black Diamond for safety, largely to prevent daredevil 10 to 12-year-old boys racing on their bikes down the bank and to prevent a serious accident from waiting to happen. Moreover, removing the fence to push snow down the bank will create ice problems on the path below. Is it now town policy to push snow down banks? As for the northwest path, the recommended reconfiguration of the trail will significantly damage and encroach on the natural area, and for what? Please just put the safety handrail back. How much money was wasted by removing the safety handrail in the first place? The recommendation to spend 40,000 plus to unnecessarily reconfigure a path that is in perfectly good condition is unacceptable, irresponsible, and not good fiscal management. Once again, nobody has bothered to find out why the fences and safety handrails were installed in the first place. If they had, we certainly would not have the situation that is angering and upsetting everyone. The cost estimates to remediate the problems caused by town staff are unrealistically low. The Diamond Valley residents are already very angry with escalating costs put on taxpayers. Once they hear about this costly and unnecessary work, they will be furious. Many will email you, phone you, or attend council meetings, but the quiet ones will wait for election. $20,000 for one trail, $40,000 for the other. You must see that $60,000 plus, and that is a very low estimate, is a lot of money, especially to solve a problem created by a town employee. Who was the path built for? People or machines? If machinery is purchased to do a specific job and it doesn't work, is that a lack of due diligence? My questions to council are: 1, will you pass a motion to reinstall the safety handrail? 2, will you reject the recommendations in the staff report, agenda item 11, for both pathways? Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. And again, we will be discussing this matter further in the agenda, so you will get your answers to those questions then. Thank you for that report. All right, that closes question periods. We will move on to 6.2, motions arising from question period. We only had the one that we heard Deputy Mayor Kelly, but we're going to deal with that at the capital budget. It'll be included as an item there. So we're moving on to statutory and non-statutory hearings. Bylaw 2023-32, land use bylaw amendments. Mr. Sharp, who would like to speak to this?
Mayor Crane, I'll defer to Ms. Lorazone, please.
Thank you. Carrie, would you like to come up to the center here? Thank you. And you can just use the mic. The floor is yours.
Because I'm so slow. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present bylaw 2023-32. It amends the former Town of Black Diamond land use bylaw 2021-06. As discussed earlier, we still have 2 land use bylaws. So RV parking and storage used to be, well, it still is in the Black Diamond land use bylaw. With the implementation of the property responsibility bylaw 2023-23 for the Town of Diamond Valley, The references to RV parking and storage is now under that domain for municipal enforcement to deal with it more effectively. So we're here today to remove those portions from the land use bylaw.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion to that effect, please? No,
Yes.
yeah, sorry. Yep, well, I don't have my cheat sheet. But we will begin by opening this. Okay, hold on. Ready? Yep,
It's in the.
yep, no, I got it right here. I'm just gonna start doing the diatribe now. So the public hearing for bylaw 2023-32 land use bylaw amendment to amend 2021-06 land use bylaw Black Diamond. I hereby declare the public hearing for bylaw 2023-32 land use bylaw amendment to amend 2021-06 land use bylaw Black Diamond open at 7:08. Introductions. I am Mayor Barry Crane and I'm the chairperson for today's hearing. Will council please introduce themselves, starting from Councillor Gordon and proceeding to the south.
I'm Councillor Jonathan Borden.
Councillor Cindy Holiday.
Councillor Brandon Kelly.
Veronica Flavor.
Councillor Hazel Martin.
Councillor Heather Thompson.
And administration, if you continue on down the line, please.
I'm CAO Sharp.
Legislative Services Manager Verna Staples.
Planning and Development Manager Carrie Florzone.
Planning and Development Officer Denise Stewart.
Operations Manager Craig Beaton.
Fire Chief TJ Moore.
Excellent, thank you. And yeah, that rounds that out. Perfect. Okay. All discussions by council members, administration, and speakers shall be directed through me as the presiding officer. During the public hearing, we ask that you respect the views of everyone here and allow each person their time to speak without interruption. Each person wishing to speak will be given up to 5 minutes. Point in question. To make the presentation to council, I ask that you indicate if you are speaking on your own behalf, on behalf of another person, a group of persons, or an organization. When you are finished speaking, please remain in the front, as council may ask you some questions. This hearing will be carried out in a formal and orderly fashion in accordance with normal parliamentary procedures. Mr. Sharp, can you please confirm whether this public hearing has been advertised and notice given in accordance with requirements of the Municipal Government Act?
Yes, it has, Mayor Crane.
Thank you. Now I'll have Carrie, you can come up and sit down and say the exact same thing. Thank you.
Bylaw 2032 is to remove RV storage and parking from the Black Diamond land use bylaw, since it is now part of the property responsibility bylaw.
Council, any questions for Ms. Warzone? We debated this clearly and effectively several times leading up to this decision here. So written submissions, Mr. Sharp, has the town received any written submissions not included in your staff report? If so, I would ask that they be read aloud and entered into the record.
No submissions, Mayor Crane.
Excellent, thank you. At this point of the hearing, I will call upon the people wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw. If you are speaking and you have already provided a written submission, please summarize your concerns. Council members may ask presenters questions for the purpose of clarifying the speaker's comments and notes. Council will not debate this matter during this time. The decision regarding whether to grant the bylaw further readings will be dealt with later in the agenda or at a subsequent meeting if deemed necessary. Administration, has anyone registered or signed in to speak to the bylaw?
None this evening, Mayor Crane.
Alrighty. At this time, I would ask if anyone present in the audience who has not yet spoken would like to speak to the bylaw. Please come forward, sit right here in the center, state your name and your concern. The bylaw 23-32, amending 2021-06, Black Diamond's previous land use bylaw. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the center now, state your name and register your concern with council. Seeing none, last chance. There'll be another chance, that's the funny part. Moving on. Last call for submissions. Well, I will ask administration to verify that no further written submissions were received.
I can verify no further written submissions were received.
And have all speakers been heard to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
All right. Final remarks. Does any person in the audience wish to address any new information provided at this hearing? Council may ask questions as follow. Going once, going twice. Sold. Does administration have any closing remarks or responses to questions or concerns that were brought forward? None. Is council satisfied that they have obtained sufficient information from this public hearing? Alrighty. I would like to thank all those who spoke and provided submissions for their comments. Council will take your comments into consideration when deciding on this matter. With that said, I declare the public hearing for bylaw 2023-32 closed at 7:13, November 6th, 2023. All right. 2 seconds. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, for some of you, you've never attended a council meeting here at Diamond Valley before. Some of you have. Just so you know, it's not our intention to be difficult. It's not our intention to cut people off. It's not our intention to do anything of that nature. It might seem like that. I, as the chair of the meeting, have a certain amount of depth of experience. One of the things I like to do is I treat respect with respect, and I treat disrespect with disrespect. Plain and simple. So if I see someone like Audrey came up and was very respectful, I'm going to listen very clearly. If I hear a demeanor that is demanding and authoritative and speaking outright into people's opinions and labeling individuals and employees, I take great offense to that. And so I return that favor in kind with the exact same amount of disrespect that I am feeling. Now, whether that's right or wrong, it is what it is. But that's the level that I chair a meeting. And I'll apologize for that behavior, no problem. And I apologize right now for that. So that I'm apologizing for cutting you off. Thank you. So moving forward, I only ask that we don't go down that road. Thank you. All right, bylaw use. Here we go. Next one up. We did not have delegations. We did, but they're not. Are they? Yeah. No. So we have 8.1, Foothills Lions Club delegation. I will speak on behalf of this. Mr. Brad Whaling and Mr. Colin Fledley, Lions members, were to attend tonight's meeting to talk about the flooding of the rink. As you see over at the campground, we have the Lions campground all set up for the family-friendly rink. What we have done for the last 3 years is the Public Works team and the fire hall have flooded the rink. Public Works have maintained it. There was no need for them to come, as this is now something that the community is expecting. The fire hall is on board, Public Works is on board. So I would only ask CAO Sharp if your team is still fully aware and ready to go as soon as the weather actually gets cold.
Yeah, Mayor Crane,
If it ever does.
we're happy to provide that service. We're ready to go.
Excellent, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just in previous years, there was just a few questions about insurance. Is everything, are we okay with that? Could we look into that? If not, that was a conversation that was ongoing
Actually,
in previous years. I just want to make sure that's covered before we lay water down. That's it.
Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, we just confirmed that the insurance is in place so long as there's an agreement. However, it came to our attention last night that the agreement was signed in 2021 with a lease agreement with the town of Black Diamond with the Lions Club and using that property. So that needs to be on our radar to change the terms to identify Diamond Valley. And it's something I actually wanted to bring forward last night and I forgot to do that. From an insurance perspective, it doesn't quite carry over the same way as municipal order did, where things carry forward until we make changes because of the principle of the named insured. So we have to take a look, and it's not my policy, though it's I'm part of the company that handles that policy. I'm not on the file. So I would recommend to the administration, they look at that with the Lions Club to ensure that insurance is actually correct with the rightfully stated name insured.
Excellent, thank you. We'll have the Lions Club president follow up with administration, just to be clear. All right, excellent, moving on. 9.1 bylaw 2023-31 revised land use bylaw 2021-06 amendment to DC 6, which was we just had. In front of us.
No.
No,
No, that's the difference.
no, this is totally different, yes indeed. 32, not 31, 31 is 32. Okay, bylaw 2023-31. Denise and Carrie, I believe, Mr. Sharp. Here we go. Ms. Denise, floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. We're going to be seeing a lot of each other in the next few weeks. We're getting busy. So the application before you today is to revise the land use bylaw. It's amendment to the direct control 6 zone. It's a textual amendment, technically, to revise the DC 6. Being the bylaw of the former town of Turner Valley to allow a mixed use residential commercial use to lot 29, block 2, plan 001-1777. The current bylaw allows this direct control 6 unit or parcel rather to be used for the construction of a 32 unit residential apartment building. The applicant intends to develop it as a mixed use building. The bylaw is being presented to council for first reading and to direct administration to schedule a public hearing. So this application, or there was an application that was presented on this land in May of this year, and that was to take the land from direct control 6 to Central Business District. At that public hearing on May 17th, 2023, the motion to give bylaw 2023-19 second reading was defeated. There was an additional motion that was made that evening that council direct administration to investigate the purchase of land or land swap for this parcel. So subsequent to that request, administration did take into consideration that and determined that the town does not have any lands available to swap, which would be suitable for the applicant's purpose, for that named purpose. And the purchase of the land was not included in the 2024 budget discussions. The notice of the application has been sent to agencies, and the attached report provides comments that have been received by the agencies and the department heads. Should council agree to give this bylaw first reading, a notice of public hearing will be prepared in accordance with our advertising bylaw 2023 number 12. It is administration's recommendations. We've provided some proposed recommendations for you, and it's administration's recommendation that council consider options 1 and 2. That is, you have a very thorough report, and I really know it. So I've kept this brief. That concludes my presentation. If it,
Excellent.
Council has any questions.
Just stay right there. I'm sure we will. We'll start off with Councillor Murphy.
Thank you very much, Denise. I have 2 questions. First one is administration expecting the developer to cover the complete cost of the proposed sidewalk installation on the east side of 4A Street Northwest? That's on page 26.
Correct. So that is an expectation that because there is not a municipal sidewalk to service this parcel. And so that is something that will come at a development permit stage, but that is what the intention is, and that's been communicated to the applicant.
Okay.
And second question is, Could administration please clarify if offsite levies will be collected on this property? Since there was no mention of it in the presentation.
So this is, so at the land use bylaw change, that is, not something that is brought up, but it is the intent and it is the requirement that we collect offsite levies on all properties that have not previously had offsite levies collected for it. So.
Okay, because
The
later on,
yes,
because later on in 10.2, you do state in there the offsite levies, item 10.2, and for each part. Whereas this one, this application, I guess we're just here at the first. Yeah, before.
that is,
Yeah.
yeah. For further clarification for council is item 10.2 is a development permit application. And this is simply an amendment of our existing land use bylaw so that we can consider a development permit application.
Okay, thank you, Denise.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon, followed by Councillor Clever.
Yeah, thanks for this information. I appreciate the diligence that you've taken with presenting different options to the landowner here. It may be a question for development permit stage, but the concerns in May that we heard from the residents were the traffic concerns coming off 4th onto 2nd there. I'm sure those concerns still hold value. One of the questions that I have regarding that, and once again, it may be the development permit stage, but I'd like to see something, has there been discussion about how to alleviate those traffic concerns based on what the residents brought back in May? Because repeating that scenario from a different perspective, we're just seeming like we're going down the same path here. So I'd like to know what discussions have been made, if any, to alleviate the traffic concerns there, to ensure that we don't have vehicles turning east where, because there's no sidewalk on either side there. The residents were very concerned about the increase of traffic that will happen there. So what discussions, if any, have taken place to date?
So you're correct, that those are, so this is first reading. So then during public hearing, we would fully anticipate that those concerns will be readdressed by the public and obviously with administration as well. We have had some discussions about traffic calming opportunities, but they'll need to be more fully explored. You know, when you have, like, say, for example, one of them was Jersey barriers. Well, you need to be able to provide a suitable turnaround if you come up to a Jersey barrier. So there's some things that would have to be considered. So it's not just as simple as dropping down Jersey barriers, but there's a number of temporary solutions that could be explored till we find the right one.
Yeah, very brief follow-up, and that's what I was getting at with the Jersey barriers, a permanent barrier turning east with the need then to encroach potentially on the landowner so that we have a proper turnaround. Has that been discussed?
On the north side of First Avenue, there's a significant boulevard. And it is basically, it looks like all those property owners' lawns. So, you know, there would have to be some reduction in those front yards, what are typically front yards, but they're town-owned road right away.
Thank you. Councillor Clerk, thank you.
Thanks. You made reference to the motion May 17th of to investigate a purchase or land swap, but it's not explicit in the report whether the applicant was amenable to purchase or the town purchasing. What's the story there?
The applicant will live on this land. So he's not willing to sell.
That's good to know as well. Heather, anything? Councillor Holiday?
Yeah, just to clarify, so we'll go to public hearing. This is a direct control. So all the final details of how this building looks, because I'm still not, none of the changes were made. All the things that were like last time are still in the application. It will come back to us for approval. It's not something that the development authority or the development office in town admin, they don't, it still comes back to us, right? I just want to make that.
So if this property, like it's currently direct control and it's this, this is just an amendment for it to remain direct control. And council is the approving authority on direct control items. It would not be responsible for us to ask that the amend plans for something that he doesn't know if it's even going to get second reading. So there's some risk to the applicant. So if you give it second reading, and then he has to make an application, like second and third reading, and then he'll make an application. And then we'll go through his application and we'll prepare a thorough report for council to review all of those details and address the concerns that are brought up from the public hearing.
All right. So just to be clear, our time to make amendments on it will be before we do third reading. There is no other application that comes to us after the bylaw gets approved. It's all handled internally in development agreement, or I'm seeing Carrie shaking her head. So I just want to make sure where we have to put in our suggestions and expectations on this. At what stage?
Sure. So you can amend this bylaw that's presented to you today. And then, of course, you have an opportunity to make comments, and it will be your decision on conditions and review of the plans, etc. So you would be able to.
I'll get Carrie to clarify as well.
Yeah, so bylaw amendment for a DC lays down the groundwork. Council is the approving authority in a direct control on a development permit. So if you give third reading to these regulations, the landowner has to meet the regulations with the development permit. The development permit comes to you for approval. So all of those particulars about what species of trees and what width of the parking stalls and how tall the building is, that is all within your approval control.
After third reading.
Yes, so we need to give the bylaw third reading, and then the applicant can come forward with a development permit application for the specifics.
That is exactly the answer. Perfect. Okay. Hazel. Oh, absolutely. Yes, please do.
Can I make a motion that council asks administration to mail or hand deliver letters to the adjacent property owners 14 days in advance of the public hearings? To have that, you know, when you do your notice in the newspaper, but make sure letters go out to all those residents.
Hazel, why don't you give the correct option and make that an addition?
On option 3.
Option 1.
Okay.
So you go option 1 and then add in your previous statement, and that should work perfectly.
Are we ready?
Yeah. Yeah, we're ready for more.
Okay. That council give first reading to bylaw 2023-31 and include in that.
What's happening?
Yeah, they have to be, good bylaw, first reading, and then do your.
My bill is different than anything else. I'm thinking of you. Yeah. Well, that's okay. We get started. Hold the arts.
They just do the first reading.
And then we'll do that.
Okay. That council gives first reading to bylaw 2023-31.
Okay, any questions on that one? All in favor? All right. Now, once we have a date set, then you're gonna make another one. So we get a date for the public hearing. Go ahead, Denise.
The motion is that you direct administration to set a public hearing date, and that you leave the discretion on the public hearing date to administration, so that we can ensure that we are able to provide the circulation, have the Western wheel dates et cetera, make sure that there's administration available to attend the public hearing. So the motion presented to you, and you can set a public hearing date if you choose to, but if you just leave it open-ended, that administration set the public hearing date, please.
So you could make that motion and then just add your sentence.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just make a motion that administration provide back available dates for the public hearing of said bylaw, and to include 14-day hand-delivered notice to nearby residents.
So that would be motion number.
Yeah.
Okay. That council directs administration to set a public hearing date. And that letters are mailed or hand delivered to the residents adjacent to the property owners. Adjacent to the property, what is it? Street address 4. 415 4 A Street Northwest. 14 days in advance of the public hearing. Let them know.
For that, Chair?
Through the chair, if I can get a clarification from Councillor Martin. The Interpretation Act sets our timelines a little bit differently, whether we hand deliver or mail. So it's the intent that the neighboring properties have 14 days notice.
What I'm asking is for 14 days in advance of the public hearing, that they have their letter 14 days in advance.
Okay, so 14 days notice. Thank you.
Yep. I think that's a good motion. Bernie got it written down. Council? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. All right. I believe that concludes for you, Ms. Denise. All right. 9.2, we have bylaws 2023-36 and 2023-37 to amend utility rates. I understand, Mr. Sharp, there's a small misprint, and we will have you clarify that maybe on the big board up here in red, if you could. And I will turn it over to you at this point to manage that one.
Thanks, Mayor Crane. I'm going to ask Ms. Staples to walk us through with Ms. Smith.
First of all, thank you for calling it a misprint. I made an error. So as you noted earlier, we do have two separate utility bylaws. Still, we are working on those. They're quite technical and they're not something you just smush together, for lack of a better word. They have to be, you have to make sure you're meeting all of the needs of the former communities in one bylaw. So we're working on that and it'll come to you hopefully fairly early in the new year. But in the meantime, we do, at council's direction, need to replace the rate schedules so that they are ready to go for the first billing cycle in 2024. So attached to your RFD are two draft RFDs or two draft bylaws, one to amend the Black Diamond bylaw and one to amend the Turner Valley bylaw. And so the Black Diamond bylaw is okay as presented from a legislative standpoint. It shows the rate schedules as they were in the former bylaw with the amendments that came out of all of the work done and the changes made after the town hall. So those rates are fine. The bylaw to amend the Turner Valley bylaw, so 2023-37, I've provided a redlined view for you here. The change is only the addition of some unmetered accounts, which there weren't any in the former town of Black Diamond, so we didn't have that in that bylaw. There were a few accounts in the former town of Turner Valley that have to be billed this way for right now. And so these rates are unchanged. They are still going forward at this moment for at the same rate that they were in the original Turner Valley bylaw. For the simple fact that we need to figure out a different way to recalculate these rates. These rates are based on 40 cubic meter usage. But the calculation that is in the original bylaw references a stabilization fund rate, which is no longer in existence. So we have to find a different way to create this calculation for these unmetered accounts going forward.
Question, I think there's only 8 left, was my understanding. How many unmetered accounts exist?
That's probably pretty close. I don't know the exact number of that. We actually found this morning.
And this is based on, and I just want to reiterate, so this is based on the idea that these households are using 40 cubes per a month.
They are not just households. This is also commercial. There's a little bit of both going on there.
Okay. All right. Questions?
Yeah,
Hazel,
just
or
to
John,
follow
and
up,
then Hazel.
if I may, on this one, what is the plan to get meters in place here?
I can't answer that for you at this time.
Go on now.
Yeah, I don't have anything further to add, Councilor Burton, other than we can work back to you on that, with the remaining unmetered services.
Yeah, just for, since we have such an audience today, gallery audience, whatever it may be. I know on the Turner Valley side, over in 2017, 2018, we made that a really push to get the meters in, to get updated, because part of the concern of water loss was what was not being metered. And so if we can get that done in a timely fashion, I think that'd be ideal.
Oh, good. Councilor Pfeiffer.
I would just like to point out that Black Diamond, we're all metered.
You were. That was a good burn. All right, sounds good. Okay, questions, council. This is an addition to what you have in front of you. And if you look at what we have in front of us, we have 2 sets of readings, 4 motions per to pass this tonight, okay? So if there's questions, yeah, go ahead, Hazel.
Just one last question. Under the section Schedule A, under the billing, shouldn't there be something in there that if the utility bills are not paid, is that then they're rolled over to the tax roll? Because right now it just says there's just a 4% charge.
Yeah, so Councilor Martin, the narrative portion and all of the items that are rolled up into the utility rate bylaw will be addressed early in Q1 of next year. All we're approving tonight is the rate schedule, so we can move forward with that. There's just too much work. So those types of things we recognize, and we've got a file of changes that have to be made, and those will be addressed in Q1.
Okay, thank you very much.
That does lead me now to a follow-up question based on that. That was the practice in Turner Valley. Was that the same practice?
Sure.
It was? Okay, so that should be low hanging fruit. Okay, good. Beauty. Yeah, good. Let's start with your first reading.
Okay, start with bylaw 2023-36. The council give bylaw 2023-36 to amend Black Diamond bylaw 18-01 first reading.
Questions, concerns? All in favor? I'll give the next one. The council give bylaw 2023-36 second reading. Questions, concerns? All in favor?
I'll get the next one there. The council agreed to present or to hear bylaw 2023-36 for its third reading at this meeting.
Questions, concerns? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And I'll take the last one, Veronica.
The council give bylaw 2023-36 third and final reading.
Questions, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Hazel, you're up.
That council give bylaw 2023-37 to amend Turner Valley bylaw 19-1098 first reading.
You questions, concerns? Seeing none, We have a concern
Could I just?
as amended.
Yes, please.
Okay. As amended.
Add that in.
Yeah.
Is
That's
that
a little
okay?
tongue twister there.
Okay,
As amended.
thank you. As amended.
Thank you. Now questions or concerns? Seeing none, as amended, all in favor? Okay. Heather. Two.
Council give bylaw 2023-37 second reading.
Thank you. Questions, concerns? All in favor? Yep.
That council agree to present bylaw 2023-37 for third reading at this meeting.
Questions, concerns? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor Crane, can I see the vote again, please? Thank you. Keeping you on.
That's right. I had to give her the eyeball there, you know? And I'll take the last. Yeah, there you go.
I was just finding in our minutes earlier, just so everyone in the room is aware that the decision on what we do for future rates, this is just a lineup for this year. We have asked for the full discussion of everything that we heard in the public engagement and all the questions that have come in. We're bringing it back to our committee of the whole meeting in February 2024 for further discussion. Because I learned a lot at that meeting and I have some things to say, but I'm happy to get this aligned tonight.
Excellent. Thank you. And thanks for that, actually. Good point. Okay,
And I'll
so
give you-
give us that.
Yeah, I'll, that council give bylaw 2023-37 third and final reading.
Excellent. Last chance. Questions, concerns? All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, Third Street Southwest traffic calming option. Here we go.
Give you one right off.
Speed bumps, big one.
I'll give it to you.
No. We're gonna have, I tell you what, why don't we have Greg come up and we'll have a little discussion, personal
I'm
education.
more than happy to give you option one to get a roll.
Yeah.
I am more than happy.
Okay, one second. Craig,
And if I may, I will take that.
we are gonna take a motion from Councillor, Brendan Tilly first.
What page is it?
155. 120.
I'll gladly let Mr. Beaton speak first before I jump into this. I appreciate the work done here.
All right, and we have it up on the board here. Ladies and gentlemen, if we could keep it down in the gallery as we go through this presentation, thank you. Mr. Beaton, I'm gonna give you the floor, and if you can roll the screens for us, Vernon, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. In October 18th, there was a delegation that came to council requesting that we provide some options around traffic calming measures for Third Street. Originally, there was some discussion around speed bumps and the volume of traffic and the type of traffic that was causing some of the issues. Administration believes that the introduction of 2 solar-powered speed radar signs and 2 solar-powered flashing stop signs at 6th Ave. And when I say 2 stop signs, one in each direction, north and south. And the 2 solar-powered speed radar signs would be somewhere upstream on the south side of the 6th Ave, south of the arena and high school, and another one to the north, more towards First, I would imagine. These would be a good start to the speed or the traffic calming measures for Third Street. I think the challenge with Third Street currently is that although residents have expressed a concern around the issue of speeding vehicles, noisy vehicles, and some of them not stopping at these intersections, the speed radar signs are more than just speed radar signs. The speed radar signs collect relevant data so that we can utilize that data to identify peak hours of traffic, the relative or the common high and low speed rates are, time of day, counts the volume of traffic and gives us relevant information. So we can start targeting traffic concerns through municipal enforcement measures and select proper traffic calming measures without making guesses. Next step measures may include a few proven traffic so I would suggest that we start with collecting that data, installing a few simple measures so we can put the message out there that we're trying to calm that traffic down. And then once we collect all that data, taking that data and then making some decisions on what kind of traffic calming solutions would be most effective. In this report, you'll note that I've added some diagrams of some of the suggestions that I'm proposing. Anything from lateral shifts, corner extensions, chokers, and chicanes. These are all measures that ideally slow traffic down because it narrows the traffic pathway and forces residents to make more turning measures with their traffic. Some of the other options around that traffic calming, traffic calming measures would be, we could install temporary solutions, see how they work, and if they work, you can make them more permanent versus spending high dollar amounts on permanent structure that may or may not work. The other portion of this rationale is I suggest that we be cautious about the type of traffic calming measures that we implement onto 3rd Street. The hazard that I would be concerned about is with the grid pattern of that portion of the community, when you start placing traffic calming measures that displease the bulk of the traffic, they just move over to the next street because they're also straight. So I want to caution that we just redirect traffic to other residential streets, therefore having to figure out new measures. Administration recommends that council approve a phased approach to installing traffic calming measures on 3rd Street Northwest. Phase 1 would be to install 2 solar-powered LED stop signs and install 2 solar-powered radar speed signs, collecting a year's worth of traffic data for analysis. Phase 2 of that process would be to analyze that data and proceed with appropriate traffic calming measures recommended by administration. Recommendation B would be administration recommends installing 2 solar-powered LED stop signs, install 2 solar-powered speed radar signs, collect a year of traffic data for analysis, and install temporary traffic calming measures to determine effectiveness.
All right, thank you. Council, I'm going to open up for you guys. I got Heather, then Clover, and then we'll come to you.
Thanks, Craig. Another thing that we talked about at the previous meeting was moving forward with looking at, I totally agree that people just jump over to a street and go 50. You know, like I've been out walking and I know they do it. In fact, I've done it to avoid the school mostly. But I think that it will be pertinent on us to move forward with making all of the town 40, because 3rd Street, even coming in from 22, is 30 in and then down the whole entire 3rd Street. So, but it's nowhere else like that. So I think it'll be appropriate to move forward with that change as well in 2024 is implementing the 40K throughout the entire Diamond side of Diamond Valley. That's my only, I totally agree with what you've proposed here. So I will let everyone else say their say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Clover?
Mine's a comment. Craig, thank you for the report. I always appreciate the amount of effort and detail you put into it. And I did not know that these radar things could collect that much data. So you taught me something new. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Kelly.
Yeah, just to follow up on Councillor Thompson made that motion to go to 40 with a report back, I think in January or February. For cost. I asked that we could do that. So we're moving ahead with that, which is fantastic. I would still like to see some things put in place. It does go without saying, however, that should we go ahead with this, I think we should open up a discussion potentially to over here as well. Because there's a school here too. So I would like to see this move ahead. But should we hear from other? Do they have some of the light up stuff here already? Oh, my apologies. Okay, I just didn't want to leave these guys out. I don't drive down these roads as much as the Black Diamond side. Okay, I'm ready to make a motion unless Councillor Gordon or, okay. The council approved a phased-in approach to installing traffic calming measures on 3rd Street Southwest. With the listed phases here, phase 1, 2024, install the 2 solar powered LED stop signs and install 2 solar powered speed radar signs. Collect 1 year of data, traffic data for analysis. And phase 2, 2025, upon analysis of the traffic data, proceed with appropriate traffic calming measures recommended by administration. The only amendment I would have is that we would be presented with that information before any thing is done. If that makes sense. Could we just be presented with the information that you guys collect? Okay.
We're Gordon and then Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I'm cautious in bringing this forward, but it was mentioned when the residents brought this to us. I think as well, I don't know if we can make an amendment in here to the collection of the data, but enforcement has been an issue on this road, apparently, according to what the residents have stated. So I would like to see some form of data that speaks specifically to the enforcement on this road and see how this traffic calming measure has worked together with the LED lights that are there. Because enforcement will play a role in calming traffic, correct? So I'd like to see that report included, if I can add that into the phased approach in some way, shape or form.
I think maybe a separate motion would be easier.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
I
make
can make it separate.
let's make that separate. Yeah, that way this is clean.
Yeah.
And then yours is, and we're gonna get that action tracker, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll leave that right there for now. Heather, do you have a comment or you're good? Okay, Hazel. Cindy and Hazel. Cindy first.
Yeah, we did also make the motion to have the pedestrian safety task force started up again in the new year. So it's not collecting data, it's not just gonna be council, we are looking at the entire community, having committee working on that with residents. So before, because I would hate to, like, I'm totally happy with the signs. I've blown through that one stop sign accidentally once, so I know it needs a better sign. So, but yeah, anything else, future pedestrian safety task force, no, I've got.
Okay, Hazel, then Heather.
This is just more of a comment, Craig. Will these signs be placed there permanently? They won't be moved around like some of the signs that we have over on this side.
Through the chair, yes, Councilor Martin, those signs could be installed on a permanent basis. Because they'll be solar powered, it's more difficult to move them frequently at the very least. But in addition, I'd like to add the data that we collect is readily available for municipal enforcement. So they can pull that data daily, weekly, monthly, however they choose to do so. And they would have that data at their disposal immediately, as well as be able to present that as a staff report.
Love that. That's very good. Go ahead, Hazel, follow.
That is being collected. Is it like the number of vehicles that go through, the traffic speed?
Yes, through the chair, Councilor Martin. So this unit has a radar in it, and that radar will count traffic. It's the unit has got a date stamp on it, so we know the date, the time. So every time a vehicle passes through that radar, it logs that vehicle as a number. It will give us information, time of day, the rate of speed, and at the end of the the day, we'll be able to know the peak hour of traffic per day. Per weekend, we'll be able to identify the maximum speed, and the lowest speed rates. So it'll give us a lot of relevant data that we can utilize for the enforcement, as well as what really is the problem with traffic in there. Is it a perceived problem, or is it a real problem?
And that's when the enforcement could be on.
Absolutely, exactly. I just, rule and commented that Brandon's 3 speeders every Friday night. Law enforcement says, let's go hang out on Friday nights. Right? So
We'll be able to target specific dates and times that we can identify as problem.
exactly, perfect. Heather, finish us up here.
Thanks, Cindy, for reminding us about the committee. That also could address Bailey Hill, the safety, pedestrian safety up there. Also, Craig, are we gonna include these costs in our capital budget?
By the,
Oh, did I miss that? Sorry.
it's, unnecessary reserves could be used to cover the project.
Okay.
Good question.
Through the chair, Councillor Thompson, I'd like to add, there was a previous ask for 2 additional speed radar signs, and those were not related to this report. Those signs were input into the budget for replacement of some other signs. We have 2 signs currently. One was recently vandalized in September. And we haven't been able to get it to work properly ever since. And then there's another one that Black Diamond had, and it's quite old, and it's got a few issues as well. So we're hoping to replace those 2 signs. These would be an additional 2 signs.
Okay, we had a motion on the floor, phase 1, phase 2, implemented, phase approach. Any questions, concerns, final thoughts? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We do have a follow-up. Well, I guess we can, maybe I'm just gonna spitball something for you. Something to the effect, seeing as enforcement can pull that data, that kind of changes your ability. So maybe something that enforcement review the data weekly.
What I'd like to, I'll just spitball here, motion. What I'd like to see as part of this study is the effectiveness of enforcement on Third Street by our municipal enforcement team. And if they could provide a staff report within or whatever cycle that we are currently doing that, I think that would be ideal. I think it's quarterly, right? I think quarterly is fine. Yeah.
I'm giving you some room to grow
I
here.
think a quarterly report would be sufficient. It would give council at least 3 solid reports prior to us moving forward with a capital investment, if we have to move forward with that. And that would give us a lot of runway foresight so that we're not reactive in what we're planning is. That would be my recommendation. Did you get that, Vernon?
Maybe.
You can read it back. I'll work with you.
If you could vocalize it again.
I should have written it down.
The council direct administration to provide quarterly reporting on the,
Effectiveness
thank you.
of enforcement from our CPO team on Third Street as part of the traffic calming study.
Easy one. All right. Any questions for clarity on that motion? Pretty straightforward, I think. All in favor? Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Thank you, Verna. All right, development permit application 10.2, application 150-2023 DP. This is up across from the Tim Hortons here.
EJ, what'd you do, man? What's that? What did you do? I just fell in a hole at the fire last night, that's all.
Goldberg's got another one. Get well. All right, Miss Denise, we have development permit application 150-2023 DP. I'm gonna hand it over to you, and we have the big board up here for reference, so go ahead.
Good evening again. This You have a thorough presentation or application before you. I'm going to keep mine brief again. Before you is application 150-223. It's to allow additional apartment suite from the original development permit, which was issued under development permit 2176, and also to consider an accessory building for temporary construction and sales office on that site. The parcel is zoned direct control 5 for multi-family apartment unit for up to 24 housing units, according to that bylaw. And in July of 2022, council approved an application for 22 units. Initially, when this application was presented to council in July, council was erroneously informed that offsite levies for the parcel had been paid when in fact offsite levies had only been paid for the 2 first apartment buildings. This is a miscommunication, and administration is asking that the development permit, that the developer pay the offsite levies at this time. There is some conditions presented to you on this application. It sort of, as it happens when you have a long drive to work, there was something that came to my head after I published the report. And so you have some pre-release conditions which cover amending the development agreement, payment of offsite levies. And also I would like to make a recommendation that under the permanent conditions, council consider adding a condition as 2.E in that the applicant provide a revised grading plan to include the sidewalk connection to the town infrastructure, as there are grading and alignment challenges on this site, and administration would like to go ahead and address this issue. There is like the gap between the sidewalk that's on the developer's property, and we're requiring the development agreement that he also provide the connection to our municipal infrastructure. But it's unique in that there's quite a grade change between the end of his parcel and the curb. And then there's a meter box, like a TELUS meter box, and there's a stop sign, and there's a pedestrian crosswalk sign. So we would like just for it to be clear that we have an opportunity to ensure that the elevation change, that's going to be a appropriate connection. So if he can provide us with a revised grading plan, then we'll be able to address those issues. So that is what I'm asking that council consider today. Mr. Josh Remy is the applicant, and he is in the gallery this evening. And in addition, he has asked to be able to address council on his application. And given that this is not an appealable application, you know, if you'd like to hear from, he would like to speak. But at this time, I've concluded my presentation and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you. Councillor Holiday first.
Yeah, so was a grading slip not required before? And like that hasn't changed, like, because this is a number of apartments and a sales trailer. So why a new grading slip if there was already one required?
So the grade plan that we approved under 2176 did not include the connection between the sidewalk, which is going to be developed within the right of way on the applicant's land, and the connection to town's infrastructure. So if we have a revised grade plan, we're already asking for it we're already asking that that administration be able to review that plan, but it's just another level of security in the development agreement. So because we didn't have in the grade plan that was submitted, we did not have that connection onto municipal infrastructure. There's about meter.
I've got a follow-up too, but I'm gonna let Cindy, then I'm gonna go to Cloyber. And can we get a map up here? Thanks. Okay, go ahead,
Yeah, so there is sidewalk all along Center Avenue. So are you saying it has to go on Third Street, this connection, because there is ways to, is there not ways to connect anywhere along Center Avenue?
Can I?
Or isn't
Can I
there,
point-
if there's already a sidewalk going to?
we'll get Carrie to clarify
Yeah,
first,
right.
and then if you could, for edification of everyone in the gallery.
There's
with
already a
council.
connection to a sidewalk already,
And
it looks like
2 seconds.
right there.
So just point to that and then I'm gonna go to Carrie.
Okay, so there's a connection right here.
Guys, on the map, councilors, on the map.
Okay, so there's an existing, not to municipal standards connection between the development and Center Avenue here. We've asked through our development agreement that is in place, that the applicant provide the sidewalk, a 1.5 meter wide sidewalk here. But our sidewalk, the municipal sidewalk, ends right here. So it goes around the curve and it has this depression right here. And so, but the grade drops off to the highway, right? So we want to ensure through a revised grade plan that the connection from his property to our existing curve, that we'll be able to take a look at that, make sure that it's engineered, has a decent slope. Because what we don't want is somebody in a mobility device take this hill and, you know, then you have the barrier-free recessed curve and then you go into traffic. So we want to make sure we have the right rise over run to have an appropriate.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, Carrie, for clarity.
Yeah, so when permit 2176 was approved by council for the building of the apartment building, it was a requirement of council that was added to put in that sidewalk connection along the west side. And that he do it at the time of development so that council didn't have to foot that bill later on. In that discussion, there was no requirement for that grading or the plans of how that was connecting. Now that we're into it and looking at those grades and some of the topographical challenges with alignment, we just want to make sure that we're on the same page so that when we get to construction, there aren't any additional miscommunications with how that sidewalk should go in.
Okay, sounds good. Councilor Clover.
So I recall this conversation. It came before Black Diamond Council at the end of 2022. So I recall that council requested that the sidewalk be made the entire length of the block, running north to south. Yes, we did, and there was a dollar amount attached to that. I want to say it was 7,000, but I don't actually remember the motion. But there was no mention whatsoever of the connection on the northwest corner of the property, connecting to existing town infrastructure. So I'm just gonna put this out there. I don't know who's responsible, but this agreement about sidewalks is now going on more than a year old. I don't know if the developer would be too excited about paying for a new grading plan.
So according to the Municipal Government Act, a condition of the development permit approval can include a number of things, but it does also state and allows the municipality to require that the developer pay for connection to existing infrastructure. That might have been referenced in your report, but I'll get these.
From what I can tell, we're talking like 12 meters of concrete. As in 12 meters length.
Probably less. I mean, we could probably draw it up in the map.
Yeah, like, I want to know a dollar figure. Is this like a $20,000 hit to a developer? Is this a $5,000 hit? What is this? Here.
So again, the requirement to build the sidewalk and connect it is in existence from that original development permit that council approved under 2176. What we're asking with this additional condition is just so that the developer and us are on the same page. They're going to have to figure out a way to make it meet our standards anyway. And so we just want to see a little bit of that work up front.
Okay, I'm gonna go Hazel and then I'll go Cindy.
What would be the cost of the grade permit? Or the grade study?
So it's a revised grading plan and I'm not a developer, so I can't tell you what that is, but Mr. Remy might be able to provide you with that response if you want to hear from him at the conclusion of my presentation.
And just one other question. So you're just saying a portion of the 3rd Street Southeast, you're asking the developer to put in a sidewalk, is that correct? Or where the new building is going?
So that's correct.
So the other part where this building behind, there will not be a sidewalk. Is that correct?
That is correct. So when the application is heard, we can't make him do something on a property that's not a subject of the development permit, with the exception of what's allowed in the Municipal Government Act, making the connection.
Now, why wasn't the previous developer asked to do that portion? Where that building behind was, when it was built?
So I wasn't employed with the town of Black Diamond at the time of that development permit, so I can't respond to that.
So you have like a half a sidewalk.
Yeah, that happens a lot sometimes if there's no forethought. Okay, I am going to go down the road here, and if there's no more questions for Denise, we do have Mr. Josh Remy in the house, and I am gonna call him up. All right, any questions, Cindy? You did have one last one.
Yeah, I couldn't find it because I got lost. It's a huge agenda on the page. Sorry. So you're requiring this grade to be done before the development, like that you're asking for the grade as a condition before the development permit is released, that he has to provide the new sidewalk plan.
We're asking as a condition of the development permit that the applicant provide a revised grading plan. So basically, he's got an existing one, but he's gonna change that northwest corner and show us how that can be adequately connected and provide the right rise over run, how that grade is gonna be managed.
Okay, so my
Yes.
question is, does that have to be done before the development permit is issued?
Yes. Sorry, it's in this application, it's not a pre-release. The way I presented it, it's one of the permanent conditions.
Okay, so he can start construction of the entire building and get to the grade slip later. He's not going to be held up waiting 3 months for an engineer because they're all backed up. He's not gonna be waiting 3 months for construction just because of the sidewalk issue. He can go ahead on the building, provide the grade slip sometime, because it's gonna take a couple of years to build.
Yes, so the
I
applicant,
just wanted to make sure on the timing.
correct. So the applicant has already started construction. And so he's just asking to add, to increase the number of units to 24, which is what is allowed on this property. And so, yes, we could accept it in, before he starts the grading. It will be one of the last phases of the
I just want to make sure we're
construction.
not holding anything up.
Okay,
He'd be able to proceed.
sounds good. Excellent. All right, it seems we've got a developer in the room. Mr. Josh, why don't you come up here? And we only have a few questions, and then we'll be done with this time. What's that?
So thank you.
Oh, yeah, you.
Okay.
All right, welcome.
Thank you very much. Do I get to say something?
The floor is yours.
Okay, super. I'm Josh Ramey, and I am the developer of the condominium building across from Tim Hortons. We've started construction. I've sent emails and contacted some of you to assist in getting the project moving in the past, and I thank you for that. I'm come from Saskatoon today for this, not to cause a big problem, but because I think if we can work together, we can always make things better. So we approach things collaboratively. It's not to tell people what to do. It's if we need to connect the sidewalk, let's talk about it, figure out how to do that. When I come to town of Black Diamond, I feel like I've done something bad. Like I'm here and I'm doing something terrible. And what I'm here is building apartment buildings and places for people to live. And so All I'm doing here is saying, we have one large unit on the top floor of this building. And I would like to cut it in half and fit in smaller, more affordable units. We already have a servicing agreement in place. We already have an agreement on the sidewalk in place. Everything is done already. This is all I'm asking for. I think that's a pretty reasonable ask. Administration has taken the opportunity to say, oh, this gives us an opportunity to open all of this back up, even though we've already negotiated all of this. You guys have agreed to it. They've agreed to it. I've agreed to it. You want something from us? Now you're going to open up the servicing agreement. We want to revise the things that we negotiated back before, and I have no ability to put any input in of any kind. So what this looks like, what they've recommended to you, is to reopen the servicing agreement, charge me, I think it's $18,000 that they were that I don't need to pay, and we agreed I don't need to pay. In addition to that, they'd also like you to agree that I should replace the connection at the highway level there. I should replace the sidewalk crossing and the lights and all of that sort of thing. We already negotiated all this. This is done. All I want to do is break up one big unit that is deemed with interest rates rising. We think it's just unaffordable. It's probably not going to sell, and make two smaller affordable units. That's it. So what you guys have got in front of you for option one is to reopen the servicing agreement, charge me the $18,000, have me hammer up the corner, replace the lights, anything that your administration would choose to do, they'll just put it in there and I'll have to do it. I don't get to choose or say or collaborate or anything. That's just how it is. That's your option one. And then I'll get my second unit, my two affordable units instead of the one big one. Or two, deny it, and we'll have one large unit instead that may or may not sell and nobody will move into in Black Diamond. I think you have a third option, which is to simply say, we've already done all of this. Why are we wasting everybody's time? Josh isn't doing anything bad here. Let's get two more affordable units into Black Diamonds instead of one large one. And no, we're not opening the servicing agreement. No, we're not going to make them redo a bunch of stuff on the sidewalks. All been done already 6 months ago. And let's carry on. I think that's option three.
Thank you for your blunt honesty. Council, questions for Mr. Remy? Councilor Gordon?
Yeah, of course, I guess I'd like to hear from this council who were part of the original decision. I always struggle when it becomes, we said one thing, but we were incorrect. That was found out later. Now we're gonna change it. That I struggle with. You were told one thing, led to believe that the offsite levies were complete on the site. And then you were told that that was incorrect. In all my honesty, from my perspective, that may not be a popular point of view I'm going to express, but I believe that because that's what you were told, that is what should be what is held. And unfortunately, we would be out $20,000, give or take 18,575 or whatever it may be in offsite levies. But I think, I work in an industry where utmost good faith is part of every contract and is part of contract law. And you entered into a contract in utmost good faith, being told the offsite levies were paid. And I think as a town, we need to honor that.
Thank you. Questions?
It's not a quick comment. I'm not pleased to hear that this sidewalk debate is still ongoing. I thought we voted on it before amalgamation and it was a done deal.
Yes.
So I am content to say it is a done deal.
Okay, thank you. Back to Josh.
I guess on that, I can appreciate that your point very much, and I appreciate it. The land makes $1,300 in property tax now. When we're done this building, it will make over $80,000 of property tax for Black Diamond. And if you let me build 2 units, it'll make $85,000. So, the faster I can build it and we can get on with it, you guys can charge the property tax and we can move the people in and they buy stuff in Black Diamond and move here, the better off everybody is. So, and we're gonna build a sidewalk. It's already done. We're doing it. you know, we don't need to keep talking about it.
Okay. One more. Okay, go ahead.
On the sidewalk piece, my concern is the proper grading.
Yep.
And I'm sure we can work collaboratively with the planning team, once it comes to that grade, to make sure that we're not coming like this and boom, you know, you're gonna have to grade it quite a ways back, rise over fall, right? So I'm quite content to make sure, if we feel we need to write that in, I don't believe we do. I think once you start grading that sidewalk, you're gonna realize, wait a minute, here we have a safety concern, which could eventually come back on you.
Yeah.
So, I'm content with the original agreement, to be quite honest with you. I don't believe that we need to be opening this can of worms in the manner which it's been opened.
Further good. Oh, Gary, go ahead.
If I just may, through the chair, provide a comment of clarification. It was identified to the land developer throughout the original land development process that offsite levies had not been paid on the site. The miscommunication that Denise talked about in her presentation was when it was presented to council, because it is a direct control site. So council is the development authority. There was a note in parentheses in the original development conditions that said confirm paid. The intent of that note was to say that the offsite levies on the original 2 apartment buildings were paid. And that was where the miscommunication with council was, is that it may have been interpreted that OSLs on this site were paid. In acting in good faith, administration said, you know what? We see where the confusion was. We see where council may not have communicated clearly with administration and vice versa. And so at this time, we're just going to let that be, acting in that good faith. When the developer came forward for the 2 additional units, which we are in full support of, you can see that our option 1 is that you approve the development permit. We want to see this go forward as well. It was made known that we will be asking for offsite levies at this time in accordance with our offsite levies bylaw, which allows us to collect on development where OSLs have not been collected on the site.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, then you still haven't paid any offsite levies, is that right?
Yeah, they were paid. That's what we put in our budget, just like we did the electrical contract and the water and sewer and the sidewalk.
So they're all paid?
No, they are not paid.
They're not paid. So
Well,
what,
I was told they were paid, like that there was none owing.
right, but you're telling me point blank,
The
no
developer,
offsite levies.
the developer was told the offsite levies were owed. There was a note when it went to council that was ambiguous whether they had been paid or not. I'm confirming that they have not been paid on the site.
Okay. Jonathan.
Yeah, if I may, I think therein lies the crux of the situation. The ambiguity that was presented to the Black Diamond Council today under direct control, where in that presentation, Black Diamond Council were, because of that ambiguity, along with the developer, were under the impression that the offsite levies were paid. But it came to light after the fact that they were not paid. So because of that ambiguity and because of the agreement to move forward with the development permit application with that ambiguity, whereby council of the day and the developer believe they were paid, I do not believe we would be right to enforce the offsite levy. I would advise that we remove that from the prior to release condition. The developer must enter, and I'm ready to make the motion. Motion number 1, the developer must enter option 1, the council approves the development permit application 150 to 2023 DP for a 24-unit apartment building and the temporary use accessory building with signage, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the developer must enter into an amended development agreement with the town. The amendments will apply to the existing development agreement under development permit 2176 and stop it there. Because the rest of that statement deals with the offsite levies, which were dealt with in a very ambiguous manner, which I don't think is fair to all parties involved. I would not have wanted to be in council today because that puts you in a difficult position. One thing about our council that I'm sure people are beginning to realize is we like clear information. And when it's not there, we always ask it to come back. And And then obviously number 2 would be struck from the motion as well, because that still deals with offsite levies. I believe the permanent conditions are consistent. So that would be my motion. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. I'm gonna go for a comment from Denise first, please.
So I would just want to speak about development permit 2176. In that motion, it said that the developer was to pay for the offsite levies for the existing offset development agreements registered on title. That was the wording of it. This development agreement is not registered on title. The 2 previous ones were registered on title. So it was kind of interesting how the agreement with on the 2 previous buildings, the offsite levies were allowed to be paid as a per apartment basis. So it was really quite an accounting issue. So we did do that accounting issue when the development staff report was prepared, that was presented as being confirmed paid. Because when it went to MPC, we didn't know for sure that we did that work, found out that those 2 that says on the existing development agreements confirmed paid. Those are the first 2 apartment buildings. And just for point of clarification, through this process, the developer was aware that the offsite levies were unpaid. And in an email that he sent to me in, I believe it was September, and I'm just rushing trying to find it here, that he agreed to pay for those offsite levies. He knows that they weren't paid. And then when the issue of the sidewalk came up, that was when we came to the development agreement and saying, okay, now this is the details, the devil's in the details. That's when, well, now I don't want to pay the offsite levies. I have a report that says it's confirmed paid when, he was under the, he knew, like, it's not like he didn't know they were paid.
Thank you. Councillor Clyburn.
We're receiving an awful lot of conflicting information. Maybe the best course of action is to request all of the information come before us before we make a decision.
Thank you. Any other comments, Cindy?
I'm just, if you look on page 170, whether you make it a condition of the subdivision approval or the development permit or not, it's offsite levies are offsite levies according to the bylaw, unless you're amending our entire offsite levy bylaw, you can give an exemption. Just by motion, I don't believe. So that's something that will get sorted out. That's based on my understanding, is there's whether you put it as a condition or not, or take it out or not, doesn't matter. Offsite levies are what offset levies are based on the bylaw. And it's sorted out as administration level. It would have to come back to us as an amendment to our offsite levies bylaw to provide an exemption to a property. If you want to do this correctly. And I didn't think that offsite levies were part of this discussion tonight. I thought we were worrying about the grade slip and the sidewalk. So I'm not really prepared to talk anymore about offsite levies. So I wanted to hear more about the grade slip. And there's got to be a standard on sidewalks, and you either meet it or you don't, and we make you redo it or we don't. Whether an engineer did it before or does it now or does it later, it's got to get fixed. So I don't even know why we have to address it. We want an extra apartment building. We want the trailer to be allowed to be there, and I'm happy to have that go through tonight and just get building it.
Okay, Heather.
Yeah, I agree, like the offsite levy should be paid. Sounds like there was some miscommunication, but it also sounds like there's an email advising that you did know that the offsite levies were payable and that you agreed to pay them. So I'd like that confirmed, Denise, with whatever email. Okay, you have the email there. Thank you. Acknowledging that you needed to pay those offsite levies. The offsite levies, we say you can't pay we don't want you to pay the offsite levies. It's not fair to our whole community. Those offsite levies are collected to in the future maintain and help with capital costs. So I I'm not in favor of just saying, no, we're not gonna pay the offsite, have the developer pay the offsite levy. I really am excited about this development. I think it really needs to be done. And I don't really need to see a grading plan. I fully expect that you'll deal with that appropriately. So that's where I'm standing on this.
This comes down to, I mean, I appreciate the offsite levies comment. Okay, I get it. But when we come into a community and we come to you guys and we say, we're gonna build a building, what does it cost to build in Black Diamond? And we say, okay, well, we gotta hook up to the water and sewer. We check about the offsite levies, we check about development agreements, what does it cost? Building permit agreements, what does it cost? Is there any other permits, applications that we need to know about? Some of them are astronomical in communities, right? We asked all those questions and the answers I got for the offsite levies, what they were paid. So we put that into our budget. I create the sales sheets. So you want me to pay the offsite levies, that's fine. Everybody's home is just gonna get more expensive, right? And so do you wanna go tell them? You know, it's not, this is just a matter of.
Acknowledge that the offsite levies in an email that.
No, that was after the fact. So then, what you guys asked in council, on Black Diamond about the sidewalks, is, would you put the sidewalk in? No problem. What does administration come back with and say? Okay, yep, sidewalk. We said, yeah, sidewalk's no problem. And they said, well, if you're doing the sidewalk, you better do the connection, you gotta hammer that up, repair all of that. If you're gonna hammer up the connection, then you're gonna have to replace the actual crossing. And if you're gonna replace the actual crossing, we're gonna need new lights. And if we're gonna need new lights, you're gonna have to repaint that. You're gonna have to shut down traffic. That's not what council asked. You guys just asked us to put a sidewalk in. And so after the fact, then they said, well, and the offsite levies are not paid. And I said, this is not what we agreed to. None of this is what we agreed to. You guys are overstepping your bounds. Your council didn't ask you for any of that. They asked for a sidewalk. That's what they asked for, not $25,000 of improvements to a crossing. That's not what was said. And so then I said, forget it. I'm not doing it. I was going to pay the offsite levies out of it because I said, yes, this is something we can do. But if you keep adding on expenses to my project unnecessarily, then forget it. I don't have to. You told me they were paid and I'm not paying them. That's what the email says.
Thank you. I'll go to Carrie and then I'm gonna wrap this up with either a discussion and a vote, or we are going to take some alternate directions. So Carrie, you're gonna be last.
No, and I just wanted to, through Mayor Crane, I do want to acknowledge that the developer did bring to my attention, there was that shift in leadership in the planning department during the time that the development agreement was getting finalized. And I agree with him, some of the stuff that was added in about, yeah, crosswalks and lights and stuff, I agree that wasn't an overstep and it was removed. So the requirement is to put in a sidewalk along the west and connect it to our existing sidewalk.
Excellent, thank you. So Calgary City sidewalk standards, same for Turner Valley, same for Black Diamond in the day. It is the same for Diamond Valley now. I think it's valid points that if you're gonna put in a sidewalk and there's gonna be a gross indifference, you're gonna make it safe.
We want to.
Right?
We want to.
That's how it works. So that being said, there is a matter of the offsite levies, which as I'm gonna agree with Cindy, this goes outside the realm of what we want to discuss. And I think there's a lot to it. On one hand, I think Councillor Thompson brings some valid point. We're taking money from the citizens and we have all, as Councillor said, we need to hold developers accountable. I've heard that a million times in open houses. You better be holding those developers accountable. On the other hand, we want to be business friendly. So we want you to be here building affordable housing. Thus the attainable now, yes. So you can see where the crux of the matter comes in. So my personal opinion doesn't matter at this point because I think Cindy's right. We need to take the offsite levies to a different level and have that discussion on what it looks like. But we do have a motion by Councillor Gordon. And can we get that read back so that we know what we're, yeah, well, we can get it read back and then you can.
It's a simple read back. You just,
yep.
In this motion, I've taken out any reference to offsite levies. And I think that would satisfy Councillor Holiday for us to bring that back. We could follow up with another motion to review the offsite levies based on the information. I mean, we have conflicting information. And I think if the developer would be amenable, we could have that under a different discussion.
Let's get the motion read back, please. Mhm.
Can 5 minute recess?
You know what? Sure, why not?
For everyone's benefit,
Absolutely,
and I
yeah.
need to confer with my.
Totally, we'll have a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to reconvene here at 8:48. We are still working on 10.2. Are we still on 10.2?
Yeah.
10.2, we have a motion to read back first, if we could.
Do you want the entire motion?
Yes, because there was an inclusion of offsite levies, and so we need to deal with that. There will be. Okay, so let's get the motion read back first of what was already put forward to the council.
The council approved development permit application 150/2023 VP for a 24-unit apartment building and temporary use accessory building with signage, subject to the following conditions. Prior to release conditions, number 1, the developer must enter into an amended development agreement with the town. The amendments will apply to the existing development agreement under development permit 2176. And then there's all the following permanent conditions as well. Do you want those read as well?
Yeah, 1 second, I just want to get to the right spot here. 1 second. Right here. It is this one. 24 even. Temporary use. And then you ended it after 76.
Yes.
After 76, Councillor Gordon, you stopped.
Yeah.
So how it proceeded was the amendments of the development agreement explicitly that does not apply. Didn't you add something about the offsite levies?
No.
No. So, like you said, it ended right there, and not in peak number 2 as well.
Not further on in that paragraph.
Mayor Crane,
Yeah, let's get.
I might be able to save a little bit of
Yes,
pain and
please.
suffering
Please.
for everyone involved. So in recess, I was just speaking with my staff about Councillor Gordon's point about, the price on the ground needs to be the price on the hoist, and we said one thing and going back, but Councillor Holiday made a great point around contravening one of our offsite levy bylaw. And as a result, my advice to council would be that we postpone a decision on this until the next available council. So the 20th of December, while we can get some legal advice on that matter. The reason being, this is not for us about the amount now, it's not about the amount of the outstanding offsite levies. This is the effect of setting precedent in a situation like this as we contravene our own bylaws. Further to that, setting precedent for developers and council being willing to contravene our own bylaws. And so respectfully, we're asking of council that we can have a little bit of time to get that opinion and bring this back in good faith. We're happy to continue to facilitate Mr. Ramey's work, but we're asking for you to defer a decision for 2 weeks in this matter. Okay.
Since I made the
Councillor
motion,
unit or councillor unit.
that's all right. No, since I made the motion, I'll withdraw that motion as we look ahead to having that brought to our next council meeting. I would also like to hear, if I may, I don't think I don't know if I need to make it as a motion. Because we're talking about the sidewalk and there seems to be an extension, adding it to the municipality on that corner, even though there's already a municipal connection from the lot. I'd like to know what the estimated cost of that might be.
The sidewalk.
A connection on the south, on the northwest corner on 3rd Street.
Okay, so that's just something you want as additional information if it's.
The reason I want to bring that back is because we're asking the developer now to add that to the original agreement. And I don't know what that portion may cost, but it would be nice to know. I have some in the methods for that.
You had that. Okay, so we're looking at a deferral 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Of this motion. Till December 20th.
And we'll put it on the December 20th agenda.
So, just having a look, who wants it here? Go ahead, Cindy.
I hate kicking things down to the next meeting when you came in here from Saskatoon. According to what I read you, though, it doesn't matter whether we say it or not. Our bylaws are bylaw. And if you haven't paid it, you haven't paid it, and that's all gets cleared up, and we don't have to have it as a condition on anything. Because it's a totally separate. Like, the thing I said, it says whether you have it in your development agreement or you're not, it doesn't matter. So I don't know, here, let me get back to it. Offsite levies are deemed imposed whether or not the imposition of offsite levies is made a specific condition of subdivision approval or of the development permit. Like, that's pretty clear to me that it doesn't matter whether you put it as a condition or not. If they are due, they're due. According to the bylaw, is it not that clear? You want an answer, are you allowed to build another apartment building before you keep building? I don't want to wait up for 2 weeks. And to keep a trailer there, it'd be nice if you had approval for it. Yeah, so. So if, from what I'm reading, it doesn't matter whether they make it a condition or not. We can just remove it. We're silent on it. And if you don't want to pay the offsite levies, you'll have to come back to us and ask for an amendment to our offsite levies bylaw, give you an exemption, is the way I understand it. But if you're happy paying for it, which I hope you would be, because it contributes to our town infrastructure, which we need the money for. Yeah, I don't want to kick this to the next meeting.
I think you're right. The only question is that I'm still working, right? So that's, you're right.
Yeah, but you guys did the first development, right? You built the first 2 buildings? You did not? Somebody, your family built the first few buildings? So it would have been possible for you to go to the accountant and say, hey, what was paid, what wasn't? I don't know. I don't want to debate that. And we can't give you an exemption to the offsite levies bylaw through a motion, because there'd be complete anarchy if council could just make motions that exempted people from our bylaws. We have to actually amend the bylaw. Based on my understanding of bylaws, we would have to amend the offsite levies bylaw, which we don't have in front of us, so we can't do that tonight.
Yeah.
So if we just remove it out, and if you choose to come with an offsite levies bylaw amendment, we can deal with that at another time. So I'd say just take out any reference to offsite levy bylaws. And then you can figure out how good your case is as to who said what on offsite levies and bring us an exemption, and we'll see how it goes on a vote. But I'd like to get the approval for the trailer and the extra unit done tonight.
And that's the only thing I can.
Yeah.
Like, literally, all the other stuff that was put on here,
Yeah.
it's nothing to do with me.
As long as you don't build a sidewalk with a handrail on it, that's all I care.
With that said, my motion would still stand, correct? And we would want one on there.
If it's a steep hill, you'll need a headlamp.
That's right, that's right. Okay, so here's my take on it. I'll just weigh in. So in good faith, you know, there's been no levies paid, so I would assume that as a good developer, you would do exactly as Cindy said. You would pay the appropriate fee when the time comes. Emails being yes, no, oh, yes, it was, no, it wasn't. You can waste money on lawyers and find out who wins and come for a vote, like you say, or we just give you the approvals, get your 24 units going, deal with the sidewalk, pay the offsite levies. And if the units go up by 1,000, then that's what the market bears. That's where you find your money. That's all I have to say, because the cost of building has been outrageous and we all know it. So let's just move forward, get you building and get us moving on to other projects. So that's my thought. I'm ready to move on it and allow the offsite levies to stand where they stand. They're in a bylaw. Simple. So
Take off the offset list.
Because the NGA actually says it doesn't need to be part of the.
Our bylaw says it doesn't.
the bylaw says you have to pay offsite levies. So Carrie has all the hammer in the world, right, to hold everyone accountable. We're holding developers accountable, the town is holding us accountable, the MGA is holding council to the ultimate goal of, are you making proper decisions? Plain and simple. Denise or Carrie?
Gary's just preparing the Municipal Government Act, the wording that supports what can go into a development agreement and where the MGA directs us on off-site levies.
So through the mayor,
Well,
my
Dennis done.
my concern is,
Or we
the development agreement is the vehicle in which the MGA, we can ask for things like off-site roadworks, which details the pedestrian connectivity. So connection of the sidewalk to the street, provisions to circumvent the utility blocks. These are things that are agreed on. My
It's all about the hammer. I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah,
We
so-
have to have a hammer in order to
So the
negotiate.
concern is in approving 150/2023 and not mentioning the OSLs explicitly and having the development agreement amended. As per Councillor Holiday's remark, the offsite levy bylaw still stands. The mechanism by which we collect those is through the development agreement tied to a development permit.
No, it's the payment of levies is, according to the offsite levy bylaw, is to be paid prior to the release of the development permit.
Yes, is
So
due at the time of the development.
It's in the offsite levies bylaw when it gets paid. So we don't need a hammer, it's already in the offsite levies bylaw. It's page 170 on the agenda package, under offsite levy bylaw, are the two, section 4.2 and section 6.3.
I know, Todd. Welcome to municipal politics where your opinion can quickly just disappear. He does.
Well, you guys want to make a deal? Make this one go away?
Now we're getting across the line.
Yeah, with all due respect, Mr. Ramey, before you proceed, not tonight, but happy to,
I think.
happy to.
Look, 2 weeks
That was
delay.
committed to my madness.
Guys, 2 weeks is not gonna hurt. Any of this. Go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you. 6.3 offsite levies in respect to land is subject to that is subject to development shall be paid prior to the release of the development permit. Thus, we would put as a PTR in the development permit.
But I already have one,
This would be development permit 150/2023.
so I'll just revoke my request then. So, I mean, this is where I'm saying, we should be more collaborative than this. So I have a suspicion that I have a proposal I would propose to you guys. I'm happy to wait the 2 weeks. I will send it to your administration. And I think we'll be able to come to a resolution. Does that seem okay?
We want you to get your units. So if you can wait 2 weeks, talk to those guys, get this here smooth and come back, boom, one motion. clean.
Collaboration.
That's right.
Work together.
We don't need
Okay.
this massive crazy debate when we have solutions over here.
I will propose a solution that I feel it will be fine.
Excellent. Everybody good? That works much better and cleaner.
Yeah.
Rescind the motion?
I didn't put that.
No, once you read it, it was on the table. Okay, good. Then we're good.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience, your understanding. Thanks for driving here. Thanks for being part of the process. Thanks for building in our town. We will work with you.
Sometimes pain makes for a better solution.
There you go.
So,
Thanks,
work
sir.
together to get it done.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
boy, gosh. Okay. Okay, guys, we should. Yes, Heather.
We need a motion to bring it back to the next meeting, however, so I can put that motion on the table. That the, when is the next meeting? Okay, December, that, the, DP.
150, 2020.
150, 2023 DP application be brought back to the December 20th, 2023 meeting for further discussion.
Thank you. Any questions on that one? Yeah, Susan. Good. Yeah. All in favor? Excellent. Thank you. That's carried. Thanks again, Josh.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your understanding.
Taking up all the time.
Nope, it's all good. Sometimes it's gotta be done. Okay, do we want to move our budget down one and move trail closure 188, 192 up? Or do you want to do budget first? Okay, all right, I'm just saying, just asking. Okay, good. All right, here we go. We are moving on. We're moving on 10.3, 2024 operating budget, draft 3. Okay, guys in the back. Thank you. Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks for the work on this. As we've just seen this recently, I'd make a motion, and then if council has any questions, be happy to have a discussion. The council approved the 2024 operating budget in the amount of $14,150,593 and the 2025 and 2027 forecasted budgets.
Excellent, thank you. Comments? From council? Seeing none? Heaven, please do.
I'd like to thank administration for all their hard work on this. Looking at this budget from the first draft that we were presented with, this is down $3 million. And and then looking into the forecast, it looks like we're going to be putting some operating reserve money aside in 25, 26, and 27. So that's a good outlook. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, I appreciate the work that's been done on this. I do have concerns, and I've expressed them before, and I do want to reiterate them. 8 months ago, we were presented with a forecast budget of 14.1 million. That 14.1 million included a placeholder for 500,000 for our RCMP. So that would put us down to 13.6. In that as well, there's 445,000 that was used to subsidize our utility rates through property taxes. So that would drop us down to 13.155 million. In this new budget that we're getting ready to approve tonight, we're adding $500,000 in wages, salaries, and benefits. Some are allocated to the CPP requirements. Some are allocated to the increase in our benefit package for our team. But I'm still concerned that we are approving a budget that still exceeds what was forecast 8 months ago, when we already provided a 6% increase at that time to level up salaries and then increase salaries due to inflation. I think looking at this budget, it's great that we're at 14.1, which is 2.1 million less than what was spent in 2022 prior to amalgamation. So we've already found 2.1 million in efficiencies, which is brilliant. However, this is my concern. In 2025, at the end of 2024, we'll be entering into a municipal police servicing agreement, which is not included in the forecast, correct? So when we look at that forecast of total expenses in 2025, we're at 15.4, when in reality, we have to be expecting a municipal police servicing agreement, which could be in excess of $500,000. So we're looking at realistically a forecast closer to 15.9 million. So I'm concerned about that. This is why I made a motion several weeks ago to identify a zero-based budgeting philosophy, because we have to really narrow down where we're putting our priorities. And I'm a bit concerned we're missing the mark in this budget. Reason I'm concerned about that, by the end of 2026, half of the mortgages in our community will be renewed. Many of those mortgages were placed in a 2.5 to 2.74%, and they're going to be renewing well in excess of 7. Just a forewarning, I think as council, we'll have some hard decisions to make in the next 18 months on how we can tighten things. Will it mean service cuts? We may have to do a service level review to find out what we can afford, because this is getting onerous and I'm concerned about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hazel.
Just to
Carl.
Just to
Go ahead,
piggyback on what Councillor Gordon is saying with the RCMP, you're saying 500,000, but is there not an RCMP grant that would reduce it
I have.
by half?
Not necessarily. That was the, if I may, sorry to interrupt. We asked that specifically in April's meeting with our CAO at the time. And the CAO at the time had indicated that we were placeholding 500,000 because we weren't sure what the actual contract would be. Looking at municipalities similar to our size, such as Didsbury, it's well in excess of 500,000. And that grant is not dollar for dollar. It's not half. It's a portion of, but it's not a full 50% funding.
Does administration know what the grant would be?
I apologize to Councilor Martin. I don't have that information in front of me. I would have to do some digging on that. We are preparing to bring some analysis back to council in Q1 of 2024 in anticipation of a end of 2024 deadline that we have to declare to the RCMP about the policing model that we're wanting to enter into as a new municipality exceeding 5,000.
And at that time, you would know what the grant is, or is it just?
We'll have all that information for you.
Okay.
Any other comments? I have comments. Cindy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful, throwing out the 16 million versus the 14 million, because it's just, it's all to do with utility rate reserves and whether or not what we're putting away into future reserves. I think we're still at the place where we don't have reliable data so short after amalgamation. This year's budget is quite a bit, or this year's actuals are quite a bit different than budget. So for now, I mean, holding taxes steady at exactly what they are, and as we make adjustments throughout the next year, we all know that the money will go into reserves that we don't spend. So I'm happy to pass it as is. But there are some decisions that I would be happier left, some of the hiring decisions for when we have a new CAO. No offense to you, but having new eyes on it would be great. So yeah, I'm happy to pass it tonight and hold taxes steady.
All right. Sounds good. I was gonna just mention on the back of Councillor Gordon's clarification that indeed RCMP is going to cost us. There is no question. And we've carried zero all across the board for the 3 years on the interim. And I was just going to entertain, because holding it at zero is definitely in, everyone's financial best interest, obviously, but every other community is absorbing massive increases in all the COLA, the increase in interest rates and so on, inflation. Being able to hold it at zero is impressive. But as I've mentioned, 0% in the last month, many people said, why? Why would you go at zero? I know I'm being a bit of a devil's advocate here, but they did have a point. Even the smallest amount, so 2% on this budget right now would be $282,000. We could take 2% and put that straight over to RCMP, allocate it, so that next year's hit isn't a $500,000 hit. It's a small hit. Very small this year. We're still better than any community in Alberta with a zero. If we went 2%, we'd still be there, but at least we have something built. Because next year, if that comes back, it comes back like a beast. And now it's a smack of 4% just for RCMP, maybe even 5%. Now we're looking like the Calgary with the 7% or worse. I know that this is the first year of amalgamation as well. And this is a great budget now to see what efficiencies can be maintained and what can be built in. But we have clearly carry a zero across the board for RCMP, which we know is an absolute cost coming down the pipe. So I'm just throwing it out there. Is now a time that 2% is something that we should do in the best interest of the community for the long run? 2% is 282,000. I'm just throwing it out there. Just because. And I'd love to hear what you have to say, Brian. And then I'll go.
I think maybe Todd has something.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Pat.
After you.
Or sure. Well, I just think it's funny that every time we defer a decision to the next council meeting, it totally changes the focus and we end up coming up with new concepts and new ideas. Not that yours is bad, but the way this was done last meeting was they were going to tweak a few things as requested. And that was going to be operating budget 2024.
Yeah.
So I'm
Very good.
I'm concerned that if we keep doing this, we're gonna need an interim budget and we won't pass the real one till April. Also, if you look at our amalgamation figures, which Jonathan already knows this because I told him, we were at more than $16 million if you just combined Black Diamond and Turner Valley operating budgets. So we're doing quite well.
I do it just for spice.
Go ahead. Thanks to Councillor Kloiber, took the words right out of my mouth, although I'm not allowed to say that, you can. Secondly, I just want to reassure council, because a budget's a snapshot in time. That's all this is. Our best understanding of where we're headed. Couldn't said it better, Councillor Holiday. We're still getting better. Well, this will be the real first turn of the wheel where we'll have a really good idea. 2023. No idea. We did our best. Things got done. Things we didn't anticipate popped up and vice versa. And there may be not opportunities. There may be times in 2024 where we come back to you with an amendment. Something popped up we didn't anticipate on the revenue or the expense side. Could be on a emerging capital item. So I just, not that we should open up the budget, be flippant about opening up the budget from time to time in the year, because at the end of the day, you have this thing called quarterly variance reports where we report to you how we're doing and what has emerged, what sort of funding pressures we have, what sort of opportunities or savings we've been able to find. So that mechanism is still in place, but this is a good budget. And to Merrick Green's point, 0% when other communities go 4, 5, 6, 8%. Not to be dismissive of what Councillor Gordon has says, I agree. There will be more coming. There could be more coming. We'll have a better idea in Q1 about policing. But there's an old adage that says, old school bureaucrats always say, never take money from the taxpayer before it's needed. And so unless we know what the policing looks like, unless we have an idea of true capital expenditures, taking money ahead of time, while has merits, shouldn't be taken too lightly.
All right, sounds good. As you've all said, you're happy with the budget. I am too. I just wanted to throw it out there. Okay, so do we have a motion?
Mine's on the floor.
We do.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. And thanks to Min for the great work all the way along. We are trail closure, CAO staff reports, trail closure between 188 and 192 Willow Ridge Manor. All right, do we have anything prepared for the big screen? I know I've got the 4 pages up here. All right. We do have a couple of reserves. All right, Mr. Sharp, Mr. Beaton, I'm gonna have you come down here. Mr. Sharp, I'm gonna have you introduce it. And before we get going, I'm just going to acknowledge that we have heard from the residents loud and clear on this. And there's been great debate, both online, Facebook, emails, phone calls to the office, the open house. We attended 2 open houses. Most of the conversations actually ran back to this. So council has heard from the public loud and clear, and we're going to allow Mr. Beaton to go through the presentation, and then we will have our debate as council, and we will make some decisions. Mr. Chair, I turn it over to you.
That's a perfect introduction, Mayor Crane.
Excellent. I'll give it to you.
Thank you, council, mayor. I'd like to preface this report with an open apology to not only council and administration. Particularly feel sorry for our receptionist who fielded a lot of angry phone calls and consequently forwarded them to me. I also apologize to those residents that were adversely affected by this. It was by no means any intent to close a trail and purposefully upset residents. I was not aware of just how important one portion of trail was. I was not depending on shutting off access to trails, just as a particular piece of walkway. With that said, there are some challenges, but we can reopen that trail. It's really not that critical. However, if there is a display up here, I wouldn't mind just discussing some of this and clarifying the misunderstandings that there may be about this trail surface in particular. I'm not going to read the script as word by word, but I will describe the scenario and the trail itself. As a manager for roads, parks, trails, recreation, it's my job to find efficiencies with the team and the equipment that I have, as well as find ways to reduce our operating expenses and some of our operating times. This particular trail, in the next picture down, you'll see a picture of our standard trail piece of equipment. Now, this unit itself is new, but it's no different in width than any of our other trail maintenance equipments. In this photograph, you'll notice one of the challenges, and when I talk about safety, I'm not just talking about pedestrian safety, I'm also talking about employee safety as well as damage and maintenance to our equipment. You can see here that there's probably about 3 inches of space for that plow to squeeze between sandstone blocks or blocks of rock on either side of the trail. This makes it difficult to navigate. If you can picture this image with 6 to 8 inches, even a foot of snow, those rocks are difficult to see. Damage to our plows is something that occurs from smacking those rocks, broken seals on our hydraulics, so on and so forth. So it was just a minor attempt to not only, because it was challenging to maintain this portion of trail, it would also be challenging to maintain an adequate walking, safe walking surface. So this was the primary scope of challenge with this particular piece of trail. And if you can go to the next couple of pictures. You'll note that this trail rates anywhere from 12 to 17% grade. Again, this causes a lot of runoff with melting snow and subsequently requires a lot of sanding and salt de-icing. The next picture is also telling in sort of the challenges with our snow removal issues. In this scenario, you have probably a 2.5 to 3 foot, and towards the bottom, closer to 4 and 5 foot retaining wall of stone. You can see it's quite challenging to remove snow from this location. We have to carry it down the hill. And with this chain link fence on the side, it's vinyl coated, it's light gauge, and we can't properly push snow off the edge of the trail without potentially damaging that fence over time. So again, it was the idea of closing the trail is more about safety to the public so that we weren't inadvertently creating an icy condition and or putting residents at risk, as well as trying to mitigate some of the risk and liability to the operators and their equipment. But with that said, we can keep that trail surface open. With respect to the sandboxes, we don't want to use sand on that slope simply because we don't have any equipment to remove sand other than hard labor, and that's this spring was over 1/2 inch of gravel that was spread over that trail. It took us 2 days with 4 people working around the clock. Well, 2 days solid of shoveling, scraping, and scooping gravel. So we've reverted to using ice melt, which doesn't require as much physical labor to clean up in the spring. But to reopen this trail would really be not too challenging. I do have some recommendations towards the bottom of the trail for the report. And where those rocks are, I'm proposing that we would remove those stones. And because there's an elevation difference between the grade of the lawns adjacent to the trail or along the trail surface, we want to mitigate or hold back the soils so that they don't slough into the yard or into the trail surface. So my recommendation would be to install a 4-6 inch curb, just the first portion where you see this rock, so that it would widen the trail surface somewhat so that our student wouldn't have such a narrow space to ride through, as well as give us a smooth edge. If we can't see the curb and we catch it with the edge of the blade, it's just going to run along the curb rather than smash into the edge of the rock. That proposal was just simply an option for correcting the current situation for that trail surface. It was by no means an intent that was the only solution. An alternate solution would be to find a contractor that may be able to offer physical labor or smaller equipment that would be more suitable for this location. And that's an approximate estimate of about $500 per month, and that varies depending on the snow that falls per month. As you can tell, this month would be negligible. We wouldn't have any snow removal. Sorry? Yes, fair enough. And then yeah, and those are really my recommendations for this trail surface.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Craig. As I reiterated before, council has heard from the public loud and clear on this one. I think this is one that as much good faith as we put into something when we make some decisions, albeit not council's, it's an operational thing, and I think your justification totally made sense. Myself and Councillor Gordon and Deputy Mayor went to these trails the night of the parade just to kind of get a grasp of them. And I can definitely see how you go down this hill, even with the smallest of a frost, and you are definitely going to be in a situation, right? So it does need maintenance. You take 3 Chinooks and that thing's a skating. So obviously, I think there's some decisions here for council to make. So I'm going to open it to council's floor and let's hear them. Veronica.
Council, what happened to the railing?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other portion of trail, leaving northbound out of Diane Craig Park. So early on in the year with operations when the amalgamation occurred, in the reorganization of all the departments, there's a lot of assessments being done in all of our operational areas. And one of those were, well, I'll start with, if we all recall, last winter was very mild, lots of Chinooking and a lot of ice. Ice was a major issue last year. And touring the site, talking to operators, looking at, and I did talk to a few residents that had concerns around that surface as well. We had identified that with that trail surface, again, if we can scroll down to those pictures, there are a couple of photographs. Now, the photographs really don't identify or show the grade very well, but I do have a tool there that gives me the grades. It's fantastic. So on this picture, you'll notice on the right side of the photograph is the east, and the left side of that photograph is the east, and the right side is the west. At the crest or horizon of that slope for the first 20 meters, that grade is 19.7%. And then from there on, it levels out to about 16 down to 12% grade. In building trails, when it comes to multi-purpose trails, the guidelines, there's no legislative requirements, but the guidelines to multi-purpose trails, especially around municipal work. Municipal multi-purpose trails usually incorporate pedestrians of all types. You have moms pushing carriages, pulling wagons. You have children on tricycles, bicycles, skateboards, rollerblades. You have seniors with mobility restrictions. And it doesn't matter, handrail or no handrail, 19.7% grade is a steep grade. And in definition, it's identified as a difficult or it's a difficult trail. Up to like 10%. Anything over 10% becomes moderate to difficult. So the challenge was with our piece of equipment, it wasn't that we couldn't do the plowing, but the rail that was installed was immediately on the east edge of that trail surface. To safely operate equipment, we have to maintain a buffer so we're not dragging our mirrors or equipment down the side of that rail. And we certainly don't want to catch any of the posts with our blades because that'll damage not only the rail, but our equipment. So consequently, we were leaving anywhere from a foot to 2 feet of snow on the asphalt surface. And that asphalt during a Chinook or a nice sunny day would melt. And I'd like to add that the slope or the grade, you can see our instrument there, the grade from east to west ranges from 3 to 6% grade to the west. So naturally, anything that melts flows to the west across the trail, subsequently creating a nice icy surface. And the level of Chinooking that we were receiving last winter, we would put sand down overnight. That sand would get buried in ice, and then it was just a constant battle. So operationally, with our staff, for 2 reasons, we decided that the rail was a hindrance to our operational responsibilities, in that we weren't able to push the snow off the trail in its entirety. And that consequence was creating an icy condition. So in removing the rail, we're now able to push the snow completely off the surface, and we're now able to do better maintenance with less return because of melting. So that's where we're at. Again, my comments and recommendation were not to insult or offend. I think we can all agree, residents and administration, that it is an unsafe surface. I just don't know that a handrail is really going to resolve the issue. But 19.7% grade is steep for anyone. And ideally, the recommendation would be to regrade that trail. We have plenty of space in there. And there is obviously some concern about destroying some environmental habitat, but we can also reestablish some environments to the area that we removed. By no means is that the only option. We can certainly take recommendation from council.
Let's go to Councilor Clark.
Does the handrail still exist?
The handrail does not.
That's unfortunate. But it was just 1 inch diameter, welded 2 inch, is that right?
1.5 inches, yes.
So Does everyone know what a desire path is? It's a pathway that is created either by humans or critters, creatures, animals, mammals, whatever. That isn't a delineated surface. So if you look at let's say university, and they created these beautiful geometric shapes of pathways throughout their campus, students will just take the shortest distance. So those are desire paths. So I'm thinking, looking at the photo that was up there, if we could recreate a similar hand railing, because that seems to be people really, really want that. It could be off the paved surface, and this is, you know, an immediate plan. You can regrade at your leisure, but if we could put a handrail off the surface so that it could be used when it's required, and people would create a desire path next to the handrail. The surface would remain clear for most of the year, except when we have melt, freeze thaw. Your machine would not get tangled in this railing, and people would have railing. And also 2 options of difficulty for climbing and descending hill. There's an idea. I can provide it. People like stick figures.
Thank you. Council? Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, this question, I meant to ask it earlier. And thank you, Craig, for bringing this back to us today. With the railing there, because I bike ride, I walk there regularly. You mentioned kids, moms with strollers, kids on their tricycles, kids on their rollerblades, up or down, they use the railing. That's a reality. Prior to the railing, we had a slip and fall. Once the railing was installed, how many incidents did we have?
The chair, Councilor Gordon, I have no historical information on that surface. I don't know when the rail went in. I don't know how many incidents there were. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know, Councilor Gordon, because they're not reported to us, right?
Yes.
Councilor Thompson.
I do know one incident.
You would.
My grandson went off that on a 3-wheel bike. And I blew my knee trying to catch him. And that had nothing to do with the rail. That was before I was a counselor or whatever. He was like 3 years old. I tried to stop him and told him not to go, but 3-year-olds don't listen very well. But they don't get reported.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Well, the reason I asked that, some would get reported because of a liability issue if we have the oversight. An option we haven't considered, I was doing some research in the last couple of weeks, came across a municipal governance piece on trail maintenance. And some communities, in fact, many communities on difficult portions of trail will identify that trail in 2 specific ways. They will identify that trail as unsupervised during certain seasons because of the nature of the trail, with also a liability exclusion such as use its own risk. Because of the nature of those 2 trails, that I would like to see implemented. But at the same time, because of the reality, people of all walks of life do use that handrail. I love Councillor Clover's idea there, having an offset of the trail. That would allow people, when the weather is inclement or with those mobility restrictions, to use that rail. Looking at the rail when it was taken out, and Craig, you and I have been back and forth on email, you know, I've expressed my concerns about that. I was not pleased because I know how it's been used by people of all walks of life. With the current codes, I'm not even sure that was a proper safety height because of the actual nature of that post. But what I'd like to propose is, have you looked into what that would cost our public works team to put that rail back in? Not obviously, not all the way around the corner like it was, but on the steep portion moving up. What would that cost be? Have you figured that out?
Through the chair, Councilor Gordon, no, I have not.
Hazel.
Just a comment, Craig. The photo that you have of that piece of equipment, was that the same piece of equipment that was used by the former Black Diamond Parks people?
Through the chair, Councilor Martin, no, as I indicated earlier, no, that is a brand new piece of equipment that replaced the old piece of equipment, but It is no wider than the old piece of equipment, and it's the same with the blade as the old piece of equipment.
And you don't want to put sand or salt in the boxes, is that correct? I think that's another thing too, Craig, by taking out the boxes, that was another thing that upset residents too. Could we bring that back and maybe put ice melt in there?
Through the chair, ice melt will harden if left out in the moisture, so it would become a block of concrete. So it wouldn't be very effective if residents were trying to use it after a period of time. And the reason we removed the sand blocks, 2 reasons. Residents really shouldn't be put in a position to have to do trail maintenance. And secondly, throwing that, they tend to throw a lot of sand down onto that trail, and it creates a lot of removal in the spring.
I think that would just be a minor, I can understand what you're saying, like staffing and stuff like that. But I think residents would be at least happy to have that box there, and if they need to throw it down, they can throw it down. And at least gives them some assurance that they're not going to slip.
Okay, thank you. Cindy. I don't know, you, John.
Just wondering, because I've skidded out on gravel on top of concrete before. I would hate to make anything, and those kind of conditions, because those are even worse. So my mother is in her 70s. She lives up in the Willow Ridge area and uses this trail. So I've had lots of discussions with her and my kids who run cross country on that trail, and they hate that hill every time they have to run up it. I'm surprised that we're arguing that it's so unsafe that you need a handrail, but it's so unsafe, why are we not fixing it? And how did a developer get to build a trail that wasn't up to standard? And how are we going to prevent that in the future so that somebody doesn't build trails like this? I know as a council, it's really hard. You're dealing with plans, you don't see the 3D images, but we need to take the learning experience from this, that somehow this gets checked and that we do have standards, because we should never have anything this steep. So I mean, if residents want the handrail, that's fine. I'm fine with that, but I would definitely prefer to have a nicer trail. I'm not, yes, destroying some habitat, you can regrow it, deer like front yards as much as anything else. So that's where I'm at, but I'm fine if our job's to listen to residents. If residents want a handrail, that's fine, but I really don't know why, if it's such an important trail and it's so unsafe, you need a handrail, which a resident or a visitor or a new resident won't know until it's too late. If it's that unsafe, I think it should be fixed, is my opinion, but I don't know, I'm happy to go back with the handrail, but I just feel sorry for anyone that's not paying attention, forgets to grab the handrail, they're new to town, they're visiting town, and they slip on the hill because it's a stupid hill.
Sure, go ahead, Craig.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Holiday. That is certainly the perspective I took the initial approach with this recommendation for re-sloping or regrading the spring. It's not uncommon for many municipalities to get stuck with, crazy scenarios with trail portions that are steep for 100 meters or whatever, and we cope and we deal with those scenarios. In many municipalities, we close trails for the winter because they are risky and difficult to manage. This is not the only trail in Diamond Valley that we have issue with. In Turner Valley, we have seasonally closed the trail at Riverside for the same reasons. It's too steep. We've had equipment just about to slide off the bank, and we consequently just close it. With that said, moving forward, keeping it open, putting up a new rail off to the side, these are acceptable, and it's the residents that have to cope with a steep grade. My concern is always about liability to the town, injury to staff and residents, and when I see an opportunity that can be corrected, I like to focus a little bit of energy towards that. And again, moving forward, we can put in a rail and resolve the issue Thank you. So using, just looking at the pictures here, Doug, and I appreciate it.
Put in here. And your honesty as well. If we were to be looking at, changing this landscape, you'd think that the circle would go wider potentially? Like
Yeah.
into the green space that falls behind
They're
it?
at roughly point, so there's a lot of
There's a lot of space to the
open
west.
land right here.
Yeah.
And it levels out a little bit
Yeah.
more. And then the park sits up on the bank on the ridge up here, and then there's some trees and the slope comes down. So down at the juncture, if you were to drag the trail more to the west.
Yeah.
And then cut across the bank a little bit more on an angle and then cut into the Diane Gray Park a little bit more to the east. We could reduce that grade significantly.
Mhm.
And then any of this trail here would be removed, and then this could be reforested.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the trail that they removed behind High Country quite a few years ago because of its grade.
Yeah.
And I'm of the similar opinion here with Cindy. If it's an unsafe trail, it's got to make it safe. I think that's the point. I mean, you know, we can't be putting stairs or anything there. We've got to regrade it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was part of the decision-making, Westlands when we closed that trail, and yeah, and that was clear. Now, that brings up, Kloiber's point of, path of least resistance. People walk where they want to go, and so when I look at that hill, I wouldn't walk on the trail, I'd walk in the snow, but that's me. Maybe, you know, not everyone can do that, and a mom pushing a stroller certainly can't. So, council, let's get to solutions, right? We don't need to debate it. We know we have an issue. We know we want to fix it. We know we've heard from the public. So let's talk about solutions and get it done. And if safety is a concern, then we fix it. So let's go. Solutions.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for what is considered here as the North Trail. I consider it the western side, is to bring back an RFD. So a request for decision or request for proposal with the funding mechanism on the replacement of the rail. So that we know what dollar amount we're looking at. And the reason would be so that we can have an overall comparison as to because 19.7 grade is not acceptable. I mean, I've been biking, many people can't make it up that grade because it is steep. It was great for me in rehab. You know, I pushed myself. It's like, cool, I made it up the hill. My heart didn't like it, but I made it up the hill. So I think we have to have that as an option. I've heard, and if I can speak to that as well, I've heard people asking for the sand to be put back in. When this town puts the sand back in, we're elevating our liability responsibility. So I'm cautious about that. Because I've heard residents talk about, well, you're liable if you're doing X, Y, and Z. If we put the sandbox there, that increases our responsibility because we're assuming now the maintenance to a different level. So we have to exercise caution there.
Thank you through the chair. Councillor Gordon, in response to that too, we have made that slope itself a priority in those mornings where we know that there's going to be ice and or snow. So we try to get there first thing in the morning and ensure that trail surface is as clear as you can make it.
Okay, so just to be clear, your motion is to
Replace the handrail.
place the handrail and the study for the switchback?
No, because we have that already.
Okay.
Craig has that, just to compare with what we have.
Okay. Council down here.
Well, it needs to be wrapped by the next meeting. Yes, sorry, just put that. Yeah, friendly amendment there.
Okay. Comments?
Thank you, Mayor Crane. I think Craig has marked down about the sandboxes. That is an option to bring those back. And to maybe use an ice melt or something like that.
Through the chair, Councillor Martin, I'm getting you conflicting.
Yeah. Personally, myself, I would like to see the sandboxes brought back. If it gives residents a little bit of assurance that they can throw down.
So if I may, Councilor Martin, we have to weigh the balances here. Is it the assurance for the residents or the increase of liability? Because if that sand A doesn't work because it's not of a sufficient grit, or B, it's not present when residents are expecting it to be, we've assumed a higher degree of liability. And so if a slip and fall happens because of the presence of a sandbox, in a liability case, they would look at who is responsible, why would that have been there? And then potentially the compensation would be awarded accordingly. So is that something we want to put on the shoulders of taxpayers? I'm not ready to do that.
And I can understand your point, Councillor Gordon, but it's also, I mean, over the years, they've had a sandbox there. To take it away, that's what they're upset about. And it's, if we don't have any documented to say there has been trips and falls because of the sand. You know, we're gonna be liable anyhow, right? Even though if we have use at own risk. I don't think you take the liability away when it says use at own risk.
I'm gonna go Clover, then Heather.
I'm kind of on. Not really, because I get said that they prioritize that part of the trail to be done first thing in the morning after snowfalls and stuff. And I found with the use of gravel, if you're putting gravel on top of ice, on top of gravel, on top of ice, it makes it even more dangerous. So I kind of go on the same side as Jonathan. I don't particularly think the sand should be put back out. I would like to see our Public Works Department do what they say they're going to do and prioritize that portion of this pathway.
Okay, Clover, finish the thought, and then we will. There's motion.
Yeah, no, there's a motion on the table. We've all kind of moved on in a different direction. So, the question about sandstone granite lane. We'll need a motion to decide on that portion of the pathway system as well, which I suggest just clear that one as best you can. And then it looks like there's another section of path based on the pictures. There were 3 trouble areas, just 2. Okay, so peekaboo pathway behind all the houses. Okay. All right, good.
Okay, so to be fair, we're voting on the one handrail installation right now on the 19-degree slope, unsafe pathway as identified. For next meeting, price will come back.
Yep.
Good,
Just the cost.
just cost. Heather?
Well, and then we have to make a decision on that's even steeper, more inaccessible for Public Works to use and $500 a month to hire an operator to do that with a smaller machinery. I think that's the best option. It's either that or we close it.
Let's vote on Jonathan's first, and then you can make a motion.
Okay.
Got it. Myrna.
I'm sorry, can I just clarify your motion? Are you asking for an RFD to come back with all of these and the railing?
Just the railing, because
Okay.
unless of course, the elimination of the 20% grade is beyond that, or is it, have you costed that out at 40,000 or is that just a rough estimate?
That's a rough estimate.
Because we'd like to compare. And if I can say this, there's a process to these decision making. And I know there's comments in the gallery that they're frustrated with the process, but we have to follow a process. We can't just arbitrarily say replace it without knowing the dollar amount. We have policy written very clearly in our buying procedures, in our costing procedures, that if we exceed X, it has to be brought to us a certain level of decision. So we're following process here. And I just want to remind our gallery that even though the process may seem onerous, that's part of municipal governance. Thank you.
Any comments from council before I call the question? Seeing none, all in favor? That's one. Heather? Unanimous. There's your recorded. Next vote, could we please have it recorded? Heather, make a motion on 500.
If
Go ahead,
if I may, It's $500.
Exactly. That's what I said.
Yeah, with all due respect, we can make great.
Thank you. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Clear as mud.
Yep. That's the direction I'd like to ask for, via motion. That we, direct administration to move forward with hiring a contractor, with the cost not to exceed $500 per month. To clear whatever that path is called.
Sandstone Granite Lane.
Sandstone Granite Lane.
That's what I named it. That's.
188, 192. All right, excellent. Any comments on that? All in favor? No,
all in favor.
all in favor. We're good. Did you have comments?
I just want to say I really like that path. I don't want to see it get ripped up.
Absolutely.
I like any rocks, I like all this.
We didn't say anything
So
like that.
No, but what I'm saying is I'd rather default to the contractor, keep the path the way it is and move forward. That's it. I love that path.
Really nice.
And maybe it's because I missed the last meeting, but I'm really confused as to what changed. Like, why was this able to be maintained? How was this being maintained prior to amalgamation? I know last year was a terrible year for freeze thaw melt, so you were gonna look bad no matter what. But how was it maintained? Like what equipment? Was it just two guys out there with shovels? Like what?
Let us answer the questions. Thank you.
For the chair, Councillor Halliday, previous staff would use a combination of methods to clean that trail. Speaking with operators from the previous recreation team, they would, if the snow was deep enough that they could use the snow blower worked just fine because it's only 4 feet wide and it's had plenty of space. The plows are 5 feet wide and they're a little wider and they would struggle with the plows in that one particular portion because they would smack the rocks. So what they would do is either if the snow was light enough to use backpack blowers and blow what they could, they would shovel the portion where the rocks are narrow and then try and use the machine in other areas. When we amalgamated the reorganization of the teams, we were left with fewer staff in the Parks Department. And again, this was a bid to optimize our available man hours as well as produce, well, again, as I said in the beginning with my apology, I didn't realize that that particular portion of trail was as important to the residents as it seems to be. So with that said, I mean, I'm amenable to just opening it back up and we'll do what we can to keep it maintained.
Appreciate that. Follow up, and then we have one more motion to go.
Did we not approve a new Parks Department position in the budget tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not in favor of hiring a contractor. I'd like to give it one more season to see how it goes and use our staff. And then, yeah, rather than just going hiring out, if we've got a new position being hired, and just see how it goes. I don't want to tear up the rocks. Look really cool. I would hate to tear those up. So if it was able to be done before, let's do it. But that's how I feel about this particular pattern.
Excellent. No one's saying we're gonna tear up any rocks. I do see that, and I don't agree with that either. But if you could record Cindy as a no vote
I'm a no.
on that last vote
Did we vote?
about the 500. I kind of forced it ahead.
No, we haven't voted, and I'm just telling you that I would like to use
Then
our current staff, so I will need to know,
Yep,
just so I'm clear.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
What is the motion?
To contract
The $500 contract, motion by Heather to maintain said trail through operations. So that's it.
I put the motion forward, but now I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Beaton. Do we still have the same equipment? Like the brush and the snow blowers and everything? So I would like to retract my motion. And I would like to see staff try to do it this year with
a new employee, et cetera.
So then it's just a retracted motion. There's no table. No, motion on the table. Council Piper.
I'd just like to point out, this is why we leave these types of things in operations hands, because we don't know what's going on out there all the time. We don't know how many pieces of equipment they have.
That is exactly correct.
We're gonna have to do a motion.
We're done.
We're gonna be done in 2 minutes. Do you have any more motions regarding parks, trails, pathways? Okay. You want to take them? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for coming in, Craig, but if I think if we get a big dump in if you need some support, come back and talk to us about contracted services. Don't let it get overburdened. If your team is feeling overwhelmed, I certainly want to make sure that we're listening to the residents. Come back and see us. We'll be sure to have a good discussion about it. If we go back to $500 a month, so be it. Bring it back.
Thank you. Moving on to the agenda to 13.1 as it is 9:58.
Just before we move on, Craig, I want to thank you for your humility and how you brought that back to the table tonight. Thank you.
13.1 minutes for Sheep River Library, 13.2 minutes for Foothills Cemetery Board, 13.3 Regional Services Landfill Commission. Can I have a motion for those for information, please?
Point of order. We've missed administrative inquiries.
Administrative inquiries are none.
No, they're not. So I'll make a motion.
Give me a motion to extend the meeting by 30 minutes, please.
No, we don't need to. I would just make a motion that the administrative inquiries that were presented be added to the minutes today and then added to the FAQ for the utility rate. Make it that simple.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Now I'll give you all the motions to accept 13, 1 through 3 as a.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Minutes, Library, Foothills, and Foothills Regional Landfill Commission. Any questions, concerns? All in favor? And correspondence, RCMP, Community Policing Report.
I'll give you a motion to accept.
Thank you. Any comment?
No, we don't.
Concern? All in favor? Thank you. No motions from closed. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Cal.